Sorry guys, as always during these intros I'm back and forth, but I just seen what Witchy wrote and I want to say a big thank you. That was very sweet of you. So good to have all you guys here. We still, whenever these intros are running, everybody knew we're running back and forth with the kids and pasting it because we don't want to use Nightbot. But much love to all you guys. We'll see you in a little bit. There's going to be a great guest tonight, and thank you so much, each and every one of you guys, for coming. You guys are definitely the cream of the crop, the best of the best. And thank you once again, Witchy. That was really, really sweet of you. just flew into here, as you can see by the hair. How are you guys tonight? Great to see everybody in here, guys. What a pleasure to have you all. And we have a pleasure to have a great guest on tonight and have lots of people in the chat. It's just a win-win for everybody. Great to have you all here. Thank you so much for coming, each one of you guys. So.
Yes, hello, it's Monday and it's the start of the week, and I hope your start was with the right foot.
Yes, that's right.
On a good note, so was ours. And if it wasn't, we hope we can make you smile just a little bit today. It's going to be a great evening. We have an amazing guest today. He is a copyright attorney.
We're getting rated, by the way. Sorry, I just noticed it's coming all up through here from BNN is rating us. So,
well, BN Rate, hello, and welcome everybody here. Welcome to our channel. Hello, hello, hello. Drop a like if you can, and of course, if you are new, hope you can follow us so you can watch our interview. So, our guest today.
Okay, I just want to say hi to Hunting and Fishing Maniac. Just me. Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. Just. Challenge the Outdoors, so great to have you in here. There you go, a wrench for you as well. Rob the Hunter, excuse me. There you go, wrench for you all. Great to have you guys in here. That is so kind of you. What a great way to start off the night. Thank you so very much. It's an honor to have you guys in here.
Yes, that's right. Thank you so much. Thank you. We do appreciate that. So yeah, our guest today, a copyright attorney and a book writer. He has written multiple books about Simpsons, Can It Be the Real Life, about You Better Call Saul, the great spin-off from Breaking Bad, and of course TV show 24 as well as a history biography about his parents who have survived Holocaust. So lots of things today to talk about, history, pop culture, copyright, lots of questions, I hope, from you guys as well. So don't go anywhere. We're going to have him in just a little bit of time.
That's right, guys. That's right. And once again, great to see you all in here. It's a pleasure to have you here out of all the channels on YouTube, all the things going on in real life. For you guys to choose to spend a little time with us is always such an honor. Glad you guys were getting to know each other in that, hanging out with each other. It's a pleasure to see each and every one of you guys. Hope you guys have had a great day. Really nice words from Witch on Wheels a while ago. That was so awesome. I really appreciated that. And we're going to call out everybody's channel, everybody's name, I should say, in just a moment. Give everybody a chance to come in, and then we're going to do that famous roll call where we celebrate all you guys for being here. Life Tips with Miss B. It's an honor to be. It's an honor to have you here. Can't stop as I'm so tired, but see for your birthday stream tomorrow. I'm here in the UK already. Oh, there, little llama lord's already wishing you happy birthday.
Well, thank you so much. That's right. It's already my birthday in Europe. Haha.
That's right.
That's right. Tomorrow is another party here. We're going to party more in January here. So don't forget to join us tomorrow as well. Heavy Metal Magnet is in the house as well.
Hey, how are you?
Good to see you, Fearless Soul. Nenes Eats, welcome to our channel here. Hope you enjoy our content here. Forever Freaky Funko. Nomadic Bike, Dead Paranormal Memories. Well, thank you so much for happy birthday. Yes, that's tomorrow. Tomorrow.
You guys are awesome.
And RJ is already having a question for our guests. So we definitely are going to be asking questions. I'm sure you have lots of questions about copyright as well, since that's something that we are dealing with day-to-day basis here. So get them ready. And Andrew's going to be doing a roll call in just a minute as well. Don't forget, hashtag Blue Range Group selfies. Put those faces out there.
You guys are absolutely awesome. Please, guys, if you haven't hit the like button, please do. If you're new here, it's an honor to have you here as well. Hope you can subscribe and see all the other things we do. And guys, don't forget about the selfies. It is not too late. It's anywhere but too late to do that. Love seeing you guys' smiling faces. And here's the link. So a selfie of you watching us. And if you can't do that, a selfie of you. And upload it to the Twitter link right there, our Twitter link. And please use the hashtag Blue Wrench Group so everybody can see you guys. If you have merch and stuff like that, that's the place to promote. Throw it on, get draped into it, show everybody what you got going on.
Yes, and talking about merch, we have this week a limited edition merch from Pusa Studios. Kill with Kindness, guys. T-shirts, totes, leggings, posters, everything available, but for a limited time. So if you want to check that out, there has been already some purchases made. We do appreciate that as well. This is a limited edition, Kill with Kindness. Go check that out.
That's right, guys. There you go. Just a little look at it. Sorry, I shared it late. I thought I already had it up. So By the way, Josh Viz said he's going to play Happy Birthday for you tomorrow on the piano.
Thank you so much. Aw,
really
I
nice.
do appreciate that. So sweet of you guys. Thank you so much. Yes, this is the merch that you can see here. Different colors available as well, so definitely check that. This is a poster, Kill with Kindness, limited edition, just this week. So don't miss that and check that out.
That's right. Even the pants to go with it, guys. Even the pants to go with it. Already had sales, which is absolutely spectacular. That was really cool. Didn't think it would. You never know when you launch something if it's going to take off. Well, I didn't even know we were launching it. Xenia's brainchild. I give her full props on that one. So,
just wanted to remind you guys that the music that you can hear in the background is provided to us by MU Free Music for your videos. Go check that out if you're looking for music. Yes, all awesome. You guys are amazing. Don't forget to share. I'm sure there's lots of people who are watching Simpsons and all the TV show we're talking about, and as well, of course, copyright, the big thing we're always talking about here on YouTube. So definitely share that out. I'm sure lots of people are going to be interested in that as well. And of course, if you're new, hit that red button, subscribe to us, and ring the bell so you know when we're next time on, although we're on 6 times a week here.
Yes, that's right, guys. You can find all of our schedule in the About section, and we always have lots of stuff going on, guys. Oh, I'm bad tonight for putting the screen back. Really bad. Really bad. So there you go. I apologize for that. Let's see here. I'm just going to go to the About section. That's what I was going to do at first. So there you go, guys. You can go to our About section, and there is a schedule with all of what we're doing here through the week. It's great to have you guys once again. Thank you so much for coming. And I hope you guys are ready for a great chat tonight. We're really looking forward to this. It's going to be a really awesome guest. So a pleasure to have each and every one of you guys here.
Just wanted to shout out PJH Bottom Feeders, who has a 10K video, and now it's getting around 1,100 views every month. This is amazing.
Nice.
Way to go. Get your views up and get your content out there for the people to enjoy. That's amazing.
Most definitely.
Congratulations.
Well done. Very well done.
Leonard Shea is in the house as well. 89 Mattel, Alexa Mancini. I see some people that have joined us just yesterday coming back today as well. Yes. We do appreciate that a lot. Thank you so much.
Whether you joined us tonight, in between, or right in the very beginning, it's a pleasure. You guys are really awesome. So
feel bad for you, Nomadic Bike. I hope it gets adjusted. Unfortunately, we have to deal with the same problem here. I hope it doesn't last for too long. Barrowboy Wads, hello. John Klopp, hello as well.
I'm really sorry to hear that. And guys, with that said, please, if you haven't hit the like button, please do. If you haven't tweeted out, that help is greatly appreciated right now. So.
RJ, I already got your question, but I will add your sub question as well. Thank you so much already for the questions. Emergency vehicles, hello. Jamaica girl, hello too. Mrs. Greentham.
Being outdoors, thank you so much for the raid. That was really kind of you. And great to meet your friends, the ones that we hadn't had the pleasure of meeting yet. So thank you very much. That was really cool.
Miss Ride or Die, hello. Good to see you. Hauser Fishing, hello and welcome to our channel if you're new. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you like what you see. Good to have you here.
Yeah, I know that channel. Great to have you.
I know it too. I don't know why it doesn't have a wrench. Oh.
Yep, you got a wrench now. You're all set up. So there you go.
Fixed all
Pleasure to have you here.
Weekend Warrior Outdoors here as well. Well, guys, Andrew's going to be roll calling you out very soon, so we can have our guests soon as well.
Yes.
So don't forget to put your selfie out there, and that's going to be your cue. Hashtag Blue Ridge Group if you're new. Take your selfie of yourself, or even better, if you're watching our live stream, and put it on Twitter with the hashtag Blue Ridge Group. We're going to be sharing it out on the screen. That's a great way for you to be shouted out and connect with other creators on Twitter as well. And
yeah, I get what you're saying, Nomadic Bike. You know, I just don't want them. Nobody wants to be bothered too much by trolls.
Leonard Shea loved the 45th birthday party night. Well, thank you. Tomorrow is another birthday party.
That's right. This little one here turns 35. My wee one.
Yes, that's right. That's right. We're 10 years apart. 10 years and 6 days. So. Well, 11 years now. For just one more day.
Oh, my God.
Let's not do the math.
Let's not do the math.
Oh, my God, guys. Well, I hope that you enjoy your evening today. It's going to be lots of fun.
Definitely. We're not doing shoutouts or anything tonight, but I do want to say emergency vehicles, trains, aircraft, etc. says I'm hitting. I'm trying to hit 1,800 tonight. I'm only 12 away. So there you go, guys. If you haven't helped them out, great chance to meet you. Sincerely, thank you for everything you do for so much.
Thank you so much forever, Freaky Funko.
That is appreciated.
Your words are very appreciated. Thank you so much for
And you as well. And you as well. I'll write back at you. So we're all in this together.
Lala Lady is live. Thank you so much. And guys, I see a lot of you putting shout outs to us on Twitter. And that is so amazing. I so appreciate that. So thank you so much for shouting us out. That is amazing. Oh yes, that's right. Karen Somers has 10 years older husband as well. So you are in the same boat as me. Good to see you. Good to see you here. The Lou. Well, I can, but we usually don't do that. Tanos. Awesome. Good to see you guys all here.
Sorry, I just got logged out.
Smokin' Joe Barbecue here as well. Leonard Place, thank you so much for posting our link for our limited edition merch out this week. Kill with Kindness t-shirts and other merchandise available just this week, so go and grab yours. 244 Toyman, hello. Good to see you.
Always a pleasure, my friend.
By the way, train community, I don't know, 244 Toyman, if you are aware of that or not, but there is a guy in Montreal, in Griffintown, that is giving away his train set that he has been building for almost 35 years. So if you're interested in that, I do have his website. So message me somewhere so I can give it to you, and maybe you're the one that gets it. The whole setup. The whole setup for free. Witch on Wheels, hello. Thank you so much again. Thank you. Yes, and tomorrow is going to be Tuesday Tech Talk, our one of our favorite live streams of the week, of course. For 3 hours, we talk about how to improve each other's YouTube channels with different tips and questions and answers. A whole lot of educational information. So if you're interested in that, that's tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern.
Sorry, I'm just taking care of this stuff on the side.
And of course, this week we're gonna have amazing guests following today as well. On Wednesday we're gonna have EVH. What is wrong with me with that W? Eddie Van Halen and Gear TV, a YouTuber doing music and interviewing different musicians. High-class musicians, and of course Eddie Van Halen fan, which my husband is as well.
Big time.
That's on Wednesday, and on Friday we have JF Boston. He's a vlogger and electric skateboard creator. He's from Australia. He's going to be joining us in Australia. Huge channel with a huge following. So that's on Friday. Lots of amazing content to offer for you guys this week. So hope you can enjoy that with us. And about Twitter. Oh, that is awesome. It doesn't matter if it's Twitter. If you can shout out to your friends and let them know if you are enjoying your time here, we do appreciate. I just seen a lot of them on Twitter this and last week, and I do appreciate that. And of course, if you can pass the word anywhere, we do appreciate that a lot. Brob Outdoors, we do not have a shout out night today, so let's please not self-promote, especially today. Let's do respect to our guest. Happy Trails Hiking, hello, good to see you.
Always a pleasure.
What are you cooking tonight? Talk of the week, good to see you too. Char Striker, hello. Welcome back here. John Streams, awesome. Yes, so we're going to be looking at the selfies as well, so don't worry about that. And it's never too late to put your selfie out there. Hashtag Blue Wrench Group. I'm going to share the link with you. Michael Murphy, hello. Good to see you here as well. Welcome to our channel here. And let me give you a wrench. Oh, awesome. You gave a shout out to Gil Skills. Gil Skills is our friend too.
Cool.
Oh, well, that is awesome.
Very nice.
Life tips with Miss D here as well. Abandoned City Camo Crew, Explorers. Awesome, guys. Do you want me to do the roll call maybe?
No, I'm going to do it right now. Sorry, there was just a lot of behind the scenes stuff to do.
Vexicor, hello.
Actually, yeah, you do it for tonight if you can.
Making a happy birthday picture for you. Well, thank you so much. And tonight, Happy Trails Hiking is doing a pork chop. Supper. So let me share with you just the last time a hashtag Blue Orange Group, and I'm going to be doing a roll call. Let me see what I can't pronounce this time.
That's right. Put you on the spot for once.
Yes, that's right. So don't go anywhere, guys. We're going to have our guest joining us in just a little bit of time. So let me see who is in. Oh, hello to Work Legend 01, Witch on Wheels, Weekend Warrior Outdoors, Violet Cobra, Vexicor, Webasser Outdoors, Ultimate Fish Keeping Show, UK Scrapper, the Lou D711, The Creator Spotlight Show, Tanos, Tamia, Talk of the Week, of course our guest Steven Keslowitz is in as well, South Texas Prepper STP, So Tweety, Soko Aki, Smoking Joe's Barbecue, Skydoes Animate and Stuff, Random Land, Ralph Barton, Pretty Apple, PGH Bottom Feeders, Patricia Sprinkles, Passion for Hunting and Fishing, Nomadic Bike, Nero Trigger, Nathan Likes Drums, Nero Trigger the hero, Muscle Car Appraisal, MSL Logging, Mrs. Green Thumb, MK Merks, Ms. Ride or Die, Michael Murphy, Life Tips with Miss D, Leonard Shea, Leonard Plays, Larry Johnson, Lady B ASMR, Chris Coney, Josh Vets, John Streams, John Klopp, Jamaica Girl 123, Hook 'em with Whispering Walt, Holshire Fishing, Hazelite Vixen, Happy Trails Hiking, Green Street Recycling Man, GRE 2057, Grace's World TV 111, Jer Mathello DeLonge, Fearless Soul, Exploring Ginger, Eric Garcia, Emergency Vehicles, Trains, Aircraft, etc., Eileen Veluc the Fan, Drone Nut, Dimensions, Sports and Outdoors, Deer Park Farmstead, Cruiser Mac, Container Man 68, Char Striker, Challenging the Outdoors, Karen Summers, Brob Outdoors, Bree Nehart, Barrowboy Woods, BN Outdoors, Alf VV, Alex Mancini, Alex the Blue Man, Reviewer and Gamer, Abandoned City, Camel Crew Explorers, 89 Mattel, and 2448 Toyman. And hello to everybody who I missed. Say hi in the chat.
That's right. We got AOK Forging and Adventures in here. We got Lee Wiley as well. Great to have you all. Gear Mathello DeLang is in here. South Texas Prepper STP.
Jerry Sateriale is in as well. Hello.
Larry Johnson. Even if you said the name, I'm saying it again because I love Larry Johnson's name. Drone Nut is in here. All kinds of great channels, guys. The Skinny Collector, JVB. Pretty Apple. Hook 'em with Whispering Wait is in here. Thanks for the shout out. No problem. There you got two of them. Precision Angling. Anybody else, please just highlight our name and say hi, and we'll say hi right back to you. And thank you so much for coming, guys. Well, I guess it's about that time to take a look at selfies. What do you think, huh?
That's right. While Andrew is doing that, just a shout out to those who are listening to us on their headphones. We do appreciate you listening to us. If you can, say hi in the chat. And if you can, that's okay too. Hope you enjoy our chat on this Monday night.
Definitely. So let's see what we got up here, guys. We got Chris Coney's in here. Loving it, my friend. Loving it. Thank you so much. Hashtag Slugface, Pusa Studio, Blue Ridge. Thank you so much, my friend. Loving it. Always a pleasure. Forever Freaky Funko. Oh, this is cool. This is cool. Wow.
That is so amazing.
Love it.
Scary. I was dreaming tonight that I was doing something like that, and I was so terrified during my dream.
She was definitely dreaming because she wouldn't do it in real life, that's for sure. Jonah Nicholas, how are you? Thank you so much. So appreciate it. Really do appreciate you tweeting it out. Thank you once again. Then we got Weekend Warrior Outdoors with these amazing photos. Hanging with Pusa Studios, thinking of warmer days. Wow.
This is spectacular.
Every one of them's iconic. Oh, we got some here that were saying hi. Yes, Gaffas Haynes says the beautiful couple of YouTube. How are you doing, Gaffa? Always such a pleasure to see
Ricky
you.
Doze is also saying hi.
89 Mattel. We got Dead Paranormal Memories as well. Anybody else we missed? I don't think.
Forever Freaky Funko. So Tweety is the channel.
So Tweety's awesome. Awesome. We got Miss D in here. You got such great selfies. Always love seeing you. Thank you so much. It's a lot of effort for chilling with Pusa Studios for a bit. Come and hang out with us if you want to grow your channel. Well, isn't that awesome? Thank you so very much. And Heavy Metal Magnet, just taking it as always in the epic.
Wow. I don't know how you do that.
Oh my God. The Heavy Metal Magnet with magnet in hand throwing his finds at the camera.
Wow. Awesome.
You're just, you're something else, my friend. You are just walking epic. I think it's the only thing I can think of to call you. So.
C. David, hello. A Co-Forging Adventures. If we didn't say hi, hello to you too. Where is Danny Black in the house? Awesome.
Ultimate Fish Keeping Show is asking how to send the selfie.
Yes, so just reminding you can take a selfie of yourself or yourself watching us. You add hashtag Blue Range Group and then you post it on Twitter adding the hashtag. And that is going to allow us to see your picture and for everybody to check it out as well.
Take your selfie and then follow the link here. Here's the link I'm posting. I'm going to put it 2 or 3 times. The link is right there to our Twitter account. And just make sure you include that hashtag Blue Wrench that's separated from the rest.
Wiseman Greek Studios.
Hey.
Awesome. Alex the Blue Man. Oh, guys, thank you so much. And, of course, please share it out. Amazing guest today talking about copyright, pop culture, books, history, lots of amazing categories and subjects to talk about. So don't go anywhere. We're going to be inviting him in just in a little bit of time. And Sky Does Animate and stuff have a question. Well, shoot the question and we'll see if we can answer.
Oh, the MX Guru is back. Welcome. Great to see you again. I love motocross, so caught my eye.
Awesome. Hell's House Paranormal. Hello, good to see you. Good to see you back again. Thank you so much. Night Shame.
Hey.
Night Shame is in the house.
Welcome, Night Shame.
Welcome here. Thank you so much. Speech Fairies, so good to see you're going to listen. Well, we love people joining to us, listening as well. If you guys don't know, we're also releasing season 2 in a podcast format. So we love that you're enjoying listening as well to us. Sky Does Animate stuff. Well, you need to have how do you believe that your content is good? You need to have a feedback from your viewers. Ask that question tomorrow at the Tuesday Tech Talk, and we can go a little bit deeper into that tomorrow at 7 o'clock. And Shiny Collector, a Random Land, Pure Living for Outdoors. Guys, you are amazing. Thank you so much.
Great to have you guys in here tonight. Hope you guys are having a good time. Please smash that like button if you haven't already. And as well, if you haven't subscribed, if you can do that too, that would be awesome. We'll just show you guys all the things that go on here. You guys are absolutely phenomenal. Right now, guys, we're holding at almost 80 in the chat. That's awesome. Thank you
That's right. And don't forget to hit that like button. We would really appreciate that. And, of course, share it out. As we always say, knock at your neighbor's door. Tell your best friend that we are here. We do appreciate that. RJ says, you give us amazing guests. Well, we try our best. And, by the way, where is Danny Black, who's in the chat, is one of our past guests as well.
I didn't see him. How are you?
Yes. So if you haven't checked that out, he's a musician, vlogger, and he's a musician on cruise ships, currently living in Australia. So definitely check out our interview with him and his lovely wife, who is a hula hoop master.
She's unbelievably talented.
Yes.
The both of them are just an amazing couple.
That was amazing. Yes. So he's in the chat as well. And we try, guys, to give you a whole variety of creators and not only YouTubers, but creators in a wide sense of the word here. So you guys can widen your horizons and enjoy it not only as creators, but as viewers. So sit back, chill out, get your favorite drink, coffee, tea, or whatever it is. And we hope you can just sit back, relax, and enjoy your Monday night or Tuesday morning if you are in Down Underland.
Down Underland. Jeez. There's a term you don't hear.
Well, I'm gonna love Aussies. Although I don't know if I can really call Danny an Aussie. He lives there, but he's not really an Aussie. So I don't know. How do you categorize yourself, Danny? Pure Life, living for outdoors. Thank you so much. You guys are amazing. Drone Nut, hello. Green Street Recycling Man is joining us as well. Well, in just a couple of minutes, we're going to get our guest right here, guys. So this is your time to run to the bathroom, get that coffee.
That's
we
right.
need coffee too here.
I got to show a selfie we got here from somebody we don't get a selfie from very often.
Wow.
Yeah, that's right. I think maybe the first time ever. We
Isn't
got it from
that
Mr.
amazing?
Larry Johnson. Look at that. Nice catch, my friend. Nice catch. Looks like you were enjoying your day. Thank you so much, buddy, for sharing it. Hope you're well. Always love having you here. Hope you're having a great New Year, my friend.
That is awesome.
Awesome to have you. Thank you so much for sharing that. That was really cool.
Thank you, A-OK. As we always say, it's your content that makes it shine. We just put you in the sunlight, and you make it shine with your content. So congratulate yourself on that as well.
And you are an awesome channel.
Yes.
Like we've known A-OK pretty much right from the get-go, and they've been nothing but spectacular.
Nikos Polsky, Ariel, hello, and welcome back here as well. Yes, Larry, it was great to see you. We always love seeing you guys. It's great to put face to the name of the channel, because we're so much more than channels here, and that's what we're trying to promote, is that there's more than just zeros and ones. There's humans behind the channels with their interests, with their hobbies, with their stories, and that's what we all are about here.
And Big Rob, you rock, my friend. You rock. And don't forget, guys, about our limited time merch just released last night, the Kill with Kindness run. We got shirts, we got tank tops, bags, posters, you name it, there's something into it.
And shirts are available in a whole bunch of different colors. They're red and pink and blue and purple and black. So go check that out. Hoodies are available in black and red as well. So check it out in a link. It's also available in the description as well.
Definitely.
And it's available only this week. So don't miss your chances. Right there for you.
That's right.
Yes, bit like all kinds of things. Exactly. Well, that's what we always try to say, that we guys, although we have different channels here, we have more interests than only just what our channels is about, and that's why we can all connect in one chat under one roof right here, and we do appreciate that, guys.
Yep. Definitely. Thank you guys so much. I think it's just about that time. What do you think, hon?
Yes, it is. Russell the Aquatic, who just wanted to say hi.
All right, guys. You can take it over for a second.
Yeah, so as we are welcoming our guest, I just wanted to remind you guys to like, share, and subscribe if you're new. And, of course, welcome our guest, who is a copyright attorney, a writer of pop culture books based on The Simpsons, You Better Call Saul, the TV show 24, and a book about his grandparents surviving the Holocaust and coming from Poland to U.S. So lots of things to talk about with our guest tonight. I hope you enjoy your night today. And you guys, if you have questions, you can always ask them. Just reminding you, put at Pusa Studios or hashtag Pusa Studios if you're on the phone, so I can see it. I'm going to copy that and ask the questions during our show to our guest. Then I think there he is.
Yeah.
And guys, Alex the Blue Man, reviewer and gamer, you're watching the Toy Story. Awesome.
Just getting everything set up with our guest.
Thank you,
here,
Focal FPV. Hi to you as well. Russell Aquatic is back. Well, welcome back.
Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. And I think it's just about time. What do you think, hon? You ready?
Yes, it is time. Hello.
Hi. How are you doing tonight?
Hi. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you for joining us. It's a great pleasure to have you.
You guys hear me?
Yes,
yep, we can hear you just
very
fine.
well.
Yep, you get your thumb a little bit in the screen. That's there you go. Okay. I don't know if you have someplace maybe it might be easier to hold it for you. I feel bad for you after a while.
I'm fine.
You sure?
Fine. Yeah.
You're gonna
be find this. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I don't want you getting hand cramp through it. That's for sure. So.
Yeah.
So it's great to have you. We met about a month ago, I think?
Around like that, yes. I was doing a research on our interview with the head writer of The Simpsons, Michael, and I happened to come upon your books. And I was so excited to see something like that. And I thought, we have to talk with you. We just have to have a talk. And as more as I was reading about you and the books that you're writing and the story around you, I'm like, I have to have you on. So we're so happy to have you. Thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, thank you for the kind words. Thanks for having me. Thank you.
So I guess we'll just start with a bit about about you as a person, what you're doing now in life, where you're at as with work and the books and everything. We'll just kind of start there, and then we'll start to broaden from there and go more into the work that you've done. So just a little bit to tell everybody about yourself.
Of course. So I'm a practicing attorney at a large life insurance company, and have a couple of kids, and spend time with my family and play basketball, things like that. But writing is, a primary interest of mine. And I'm right now finishing up a manuscript about the TV shows Black Mirror and Electric Dreams, and discussing how technology, is infiltrating our lives, often in negative ways, with serious consequences that some of us are not really ready for. So that's what I've been working on currently.
Were you interested in writing your whole life? Like, is this something that you noticed even as a kid, like not even books, but just that you had an interest into it or a passion into it? I know it ties somewhere as well into your law practice. Usually they tend to have good skills for that. Is that something you noticed early?
Yeah, it was always a dream of mine to write a book. I didn't know in what form or context. And I always also knew I loved The Simpsons, and talked about it with friends in high school, and wrote about it in college papers, and it all kind of came together. Just my interest in law and writing and thinking about issues, debating, and pop culture. And The Simpsons book was my first one. I wrote that during college, and it led me to a lot of really great experiences, meeting and becoming friends with people at the who work on the show, and just wanting to continue that, writing about other shows, and now writing fairly academically about technology. So, this new book is kind of more complex. And I think as I've practiced law and gotten older and learned more about the world, I think that kind of shows up in the way I write about all of this.
Right. And that was my first question. So we'll go back then to the Simpsons book, I guess, to start it. You wrote it during college. Like, you already have enough on your plate with college, especially. Was this, I'm guessing, you already had law well in your sights. I know with that comes an awful backload of work. How did you possibly manage to do the book and that at the same time?
Yeah, it was a labor of love. I mean, I viewed it as like a part-time job, basically. I first wrote an article about The Simpsons for a college newspaper.
Okay.
And, got positive reviews. And I just knew that I knew so much more about the show. Let me write a book. And I didn't know anything about writing a book. But luckily it got good press, and an agent actually contacted me. So it's sort of always a good first step in a publishing career, getting a literary agent. And I was just lucky because that kind of fell in my lap. So, the book was used in college courses, and it got a lot of attention, press, and I was on Today's Show and Fox 5 News, and all sorts of fun things happened. And it just led to a whole bunch of great things over the years. So unexpected.
That is unbelievable. And like the writing process, so you were doing it, like you said, kind of considered like a part-time job. So how much time would you say you were giving to it a week, and what was the length of process between conception to publishing?
Yeah, it's varied book by book. It's funny, the first...
your first one, I should say. That's the one I was starting when you were in college.
Yeah, it's funny because the first one, I think now it's in its fourth or fifth edition. So the very first edition I put together pretty quickly. And, you're writing about a topic like The Simpsons, there's so much to say. And the show is still on, of course, so there's always more to say. So... you sort of have to put a finite kind of timeline on how much you're going to spend, per week. And as you said, is it a few hours, or, just kind of have to factor that into everything else you have going on.
Right.
I was able to update the book, when I had an agent. What we did, we sold the book to a bigger publisher. So I made a bunch of changes I was back in 2006. So that was a long time ago as well. But the book I'm writing right now has taken me far more time. I think it's more complex, and there's a lot more to say. So it has varied over the years, but that's part of the fun.
Definitely. So what was the length of your first book, would you say, like when they started it till when it was published, the first
Yeah, there's kind of nothing like it to get a get a book that you wrote published. Again, I didn't know anything at the time. I was 19 when the first one was published,
Right.
and to have that in your hands is a lot of fun, and then to see the attention it got, that was also great. And over the years, just getting to meet the people who work for the show, all of that kind of happened after I published the book. So a lot of fun experiences have come from that.
Was it a frustrating process writing, or do you feel it was coming pretty easy to you? Like, because the first one's
Yeah.
always the scariest because you're kind of walking on uncharted waters.
Yeah, maybe it was like the ignorance is bliss, right? I didn't know to be scared or nervous. I think, at times you'll get writer's block. Sometimes you'll take a week or two off here and there. I find myself doing that now. I don't remember that as much with the first one. I think
Yeah.
that process was actually easier for me. But it just sort of depends on mood and what else you have going on in your life as well.
Were your friends involved with it? Because usually I know for myself with Simpsons, it was kind of a group thing.
Yeah,
Everybody, always like, everybody was quoting, everybody was talking, trying to
yeah.
stump each other on trivia. So did you pick up stuff from friends and that? Like, were they kind of helping you out along the way?
Yeah, that's actually how it started. I mean, I mentioned I wrote an article in the college newspaper about it, but
Right.
even earlier than that, I played the trumpet in band in high school, and we'd sit in class, and my friends and I before class would just talk about The Simpsons, and that would just be our thing for 4 years of high school. It's kind of all we talked about, that sports, a few other things, but absolutely, that was a joint effort. And my friends helped me promote the book. I remember I had a good friend, he walked around college with a Homer Simpson mask and signs promoting book signings. So was lucky to have good friends doing that. But absolutely, it was a group effort. It's a lot, it made it so much fun.
Well,
Um,
well, The Simpsons is kind of a unique show for the simple reason, and the term water cooler show, like we use with Seinfeld and all that. The Simpsons was really the first water cooler show that was in a high school setting, that wasn't just in the work environment. I can't really think of one. I was trying to think of that today, and I can't seem to come across one else that was like that, where people would actually discuss it.
Absolutely. And it's understood on different levels.
Yes.
I think if I wrote the book today, I think it would come out very differently. I wrote about issues like, how the show dealt with gun control and celebrity culture and the nuclear family. And, this show is, I think over the years, been fairly consistent in being Simpsonian, tackling both sides of an issue.
Yes.
But as we all evolve, as we learn more, and the world changes, I think, the way we think about those issues, the way the Simpsons addresses issues, it's sort of an evolving process, which makes an interesting, book to write. I think it's something, as I've spoken to the writers, they've asked me, hey, you're going to come out with a new version. And
Oh, really?
they've asked me that. Yeah, I've had writers.
That's
ask me.
cool.
It's been fun. There's always more to say and think about. Yeah.
That's nice. I mean, that's kind of added to making the dream kind of come true for you, is the connection with the actual ones who make it happen. That's pretty awesome.
It has been. That was just by chance. I sort of ran into a mutual friend who knew a Simpsons writer, and we became friends. And he's invited me over to meet all the people, and met Matt Groening, and they've all said positive things about the book. So it's been extremely rewarding. They've been so supportive. That's been one of the best parts.
That is so cool. So you got to meet Matt?
3 times I've met him. Yeah. It's funny. He signed couple of my books. He wrote nice
Oh.
work and drew a picture of Bart. So, very, very gracious guy. You would never know he's, the the head of this show, and
Yeah.
very humble. Good guy. So,
Mike Price had the exact same thing to say about him, like such a humble man. Like, you
yeah.
would never think he's kept himself quite grounded through all of it.
Yep. No, I know Mike also. He's a good guy too, and really the whole team, very good people. Especially the writers, the animators. They've been really, really great to know over the years.
And The
Yeah.
Simpsons evolved a lot over the years. Do you still feel the same good connection to it? Are you happy with the direction it went to? I know you see it from different eyes. We all do, but as we grow older, we kind of grow with them.
I tend to think that people talk about those golden ages, seasons 4 to 7, 4 through 8. I tend to agree with that. I think that the power of the show is that it's topical.
Yeah.
And it takes a while to produce each show. So in terms of being topical, right? The antithesis to that is they can't put things in that are going on that specific week. But in terms of issues and when we think about what's going on in the world, I think The Simpsons' power comes from always being there to comment. And that has sustained it, I think, over the years. That, and of course, being a show about a family. The show is aired in virtually every country in the world. It's basically about a family dealing with a corrupt society. And how is this family who, tries to stay together, sit on the couch in the beginning of every episode, the idea of family togetherness, how are they going to navigate through this complex world? And I think for, in those ways, it has great staying power.
That's an awesome point. And it is very topical. And my kids are like 21, 12, and 8. And I watched it when my son was a baby, and now he watched, the oldest, and then passed it down. So they're all watched The Simpsons. And, that's kind of weird. And to see them through each of their generations as they start watching it, how much the show had kind of changed and stayed the same. I know that sounds like a cliche response to it, but there is that integrity to the family that's never wavered, I find.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that's one of the critical points that a lot of people miss. I've actually, I remember this very well. I did an interview, and I think the state was Colorado. It was a radio interview, and I remember someone called in and said, I'd never let my kids watch The Simpsons. And I said, look, have you really watched it? And they said, no, I'd never watched it. The idea is it's anti-family, anti-religion. In fact, it's all of those things. It's very pro, all of those things. What other TV show has a family going to church every week? And even though they'll criticize it and have jokes, and there's obviously this satirical part of it, talking about the excesses and corruption and all of that, at the heart of the show is what everything you just said, together, family togetherness and positive values.
I believe so, because it all comes back in the end. And it does. And I mean, that's true with church. Yes, we used to get fed the shows where every kid couldn't wait to get up in the morning and head off to church. Some do, but I mean, the majority of them will complain on the way over. There will be discussions, and that's proper way, I guess. I'm not saying from a religious point of view, but like you say, to actualness to it, is to debate what they follow and stuff, and which is all a normal part of life. And it is a family out setting.
Yeah, I think shows that are true to the nature of how people interact with the world and how they are in terms of their family. I think those are the shows that are powerful and have meaning. And I think audiences are smart enough to know when it's essentially they're being deceived. The Cosby Show, which was The Simpsons' biggest competitor, started on Thursday nights,
right?
Was of course very popular, but I think people saw through the the facade of this is not really how most families are. And I think The Simpsons was much more realistic and, gave it all that great staying power all of these years.
And it played off of Fox. I mean, the same way as Married with Children did. Married with Children was kind of that. Fox was turning against the whole big three. Everything's a happy ending. Everything's perfect. I mean, yes, there was a Roseanne in there, and I'm not going to give her credit. She did some stuff, but she was like that anomaly onto it. But Married with Children and The Simpsons really was hitting home the actual family, the non-guilt watch, that you could sit there and feel not bad that your family's not like you see on TV all the time, but you can actually relate to it.
Absolutely. No, that's a very good point. I think that's absolutely right. Yeah.
And I think that was kind of the love affair with it. So, that's where people can connect. Because it was guilty. Every family, oh my God, he forgot to put away the brand new car he got at 60. It was always, Spirit was walking away kind of feeling, well, my life kind of sucks right now. I don't have that car. I don't have that, the family vacation in Hawaii. And those shows kind of really were the beginning of saying, you know what, we want to be real people and we don't want to feel sorry for watching something,
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
What's your favorite piece of, because I'm guessing you have a little bit of memorabilia from The Simpsons?
Oh yeah. Well, I guess what I have was personal items from Matt Groening, and they've the animators have actually sent me a number of drawings with the family holding my book, and those are cool. And Matt Groening has signed some of those. The team has signed them, so some nice gifts from the team. I think those have been really special to me.
That is gonna be cool. I think that's gonna.
Yeah.
There's some. I don't even know how to follow up on that one. That's a proud moment for sure. It validates the work, because it's the work you're doing. I mean, you already have a job and a career, I should say. So definitely, I understand. But the book does take a lot of work, and I mean, promoting it and all these things. But it is a labor of love. You're not writing about how to do fittings for plumbing 101. This is something that's very dear to your heart. So that's going to make it pretty rewarding in the end to get those personal items like that. You know, validates everything you've been doing.
Absolutely, yeah. It's really been just seeing the. I was at a table read and just touring the Fox lot and the animation studio. All of these things, just extremely fortunate. They're things that don't necessarily come with writing a book. I never planned or anticipated them to happen, but I feel like I've been kind of welcomed into this world of television. It's been very fortunate. So it's been great.
Well, that's really cool. Do we have any questions yet? Because I do that and then we get too far in and then people feel...
well, there were some questions we were talking about Simpsons. Of course, there's lots of talk about how Simpsons are predicting the future. And then one question was about how did the Simpsons know that Donald Trump would eventually become president? What do you think about that?
I mean, it's a great question. I actually have personal knowledge of this. I've spoken to one of the writers who put together that joke. And, really what he told me is that, it was in a futuristic episode where the writers just try to come up with the craziest, kind of zaniest, wacky things they could think of. They sort of go through the idea that, if you get laser eye surgery in 10 years, your eyes will fall out. And it's sort of, as you're watching that, you're like, well, has it been tested for this amount of years? They come up with these things and it makes you pause. And Donald Trump being president was one of them. And he left Lisa, who became president, with a large budget crisis. So, Donald Trump has obviously talked about being president over the years. I don't think many people took him seriously. And I don't think the Simpsons took him seriously, but they've been, the way that they've seemingly predicted so many different events is pretty fascinating.
It's a little spooky. I think,
a little spooky.
But it definitely raises eyebrows. And I mean, the Simpsons fans, there's always been so many subcultures to it. The ones always looking for these hidden meanings and stuff like that into it, and that it really has grown a subculture like no other show in the history of shows.
Absolutely. Yeah, college courses devoted to it, and people's careers are based on it in terms of writing theses, and it's spawned a lot. Yeah,
I'm sure Matt Groening never expected that neither when he started on the Tracy Ullman show, that it would grow to what it is today.
No, I don't think he did.
I'm going to ask you about Tracy. I'll go back to the side. We'll take another.
We have questions about the other category of questions now.
Okay.
So I'll ask them as we go further.
Okay, perfect.
Perfect.
I was wondering about, what did you ever get to talk to him a little bit about the Tracy Ullman show and how he felt about having it on there, and if he felt that he was glad to get away from it and get to his own, because it was different. I mean, there was...
Yeah. Well, I didn't talk to him directly about it. I've read, of course, the story that's out there is that he was in the waiting room for a meeting with James L. Brooks, who's one of the other producers, and he was going to pitch his Life in Hell cartoon. Matt Groening did this cartoon about bunny rabbits, or a satirical cartoon that was published nationwide, and he was going to pitch that for a TV show, or at least be on Tracy Ullman. And in the waiting room, he decided not to do that. He didn't want to give up his good content, so he just sort of came up with these drawings, very sort of grotesque versions of what we know as the Family Now, and he named them after his family members, and that was that. And sort of born out of, because Matt Groening didn't want to give up his good content. So.
Unreal. He was a smart man. I gotta give he was a visionary. I gotta say, gotta give him full props on that one.
You also wrote books about Better Call Saul, and I wondered while I was reading about it, why did you choose that book instead of Breaking Bad? Was it because of the connection of being in law, or was there a different reason why you chose that TV show instead of Breaking Bad?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the good question. The book, it's called Why You Better Call Saul, and it actually covers both Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. I think. I think the answer for choosing the focus on law is because of my background. I just found it fascinating to watch, someone who is seemingly a decent person, a likable lawyer, had good intentions, sort of morph into someone who's so morally bankrupt. And as an attorney, it was interesting to watch. I think I've had I've seen characters not like Saul Goodman, but who have certainly have ethical issues, and I think to see somebody go down this dark path, and really, what I do in the book is compare that to the way that Walter White sort of declined. And I think in some ways they're the converse of each other. I think you can make the argument that Walter White had this sort of terrible evilness kind of unleashed because of certain life circumstances, and Saul Goodman's descent was a bit different. He was fighting certain demons and obviously couldn't end up controlling them. So I do talk about both in the book. It discusses the legal issues, but also just the transformations of the character, how they're both tragedies and a lot of other things.
I did enjoy the spin-off. I must say, though, the first season I kind of ran through, but starting the second season I was just glued to the screen. I loved every bit of it, and I even started questioning if I loved that better than Breaking Bad, which is like a huge question because we loved Breaking Bad.
yeah. Excellent. Now they're both, I think they're both excellent. I think You Better Call Saul, in terms of its tone and its timing, it has some differences from Breaking Bad, but especially in the last season, I think it's converged a bit closer, and you get to see some of the characters, of course, from Breaking Bad, and just to see the transformation of character. That's when I met Vince Gilligan. That's actually what I talked to him about. If you think about both Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, the reason they're so transformative in terms of television, can't name another show where a character started off in such a different state than how they ended. And he always describes it as, Mr. Chips becoming Scarface. I think it's an excellent description. TV shows don't do that. I mean, even look at The Simpsons, right? Characters are pretty static.
Yeah.
Choose another show, any show. To do that in such a careful, deliberate way, where each event, each piece of dialogue makes sense along the way. It doesn't usually leave viewers saying, well, that doesn't really make sense. Why would this person react this way? It's very logical, and I think that's part of the reason Better Call Saul has this slow pace, because you don't become morally bankrupt overnight.
That's true. There's a legacy there of tragedy.
Yeah.
He's an interesting character, and I mean, it's a lovable character. That's the weird part. Even as bad as he is, there's love into it,
Yeah, I think that's part of the, Bob Odenkirk is, incredible playing that role. I think he's, likable. Even as Saul Goodman, I think, who again, that moral bankruptcy, he did provide this comic relief to the show.
Yes.
He had despite all the bad things and bad decisions he made, he was different than Walter White in a lot of ways. Walter White was a difficult character to like.
Yes.
He just had this evilness about him, and Saul Goodman had this sort of, humorous element that I think was important for Breaking Bad.
It's almost like he fell into an element that he wasn't prepared for how bad it was, and he couldn't let go of his soul fully to do it.
That's a great point. Great point.
And he's an amazing actor. I mean, I remember him. I was like a fan years ago, like when I was younger, like Kids in the Hall, all that kind of like up and coming, like wild humor. And he was on Mr. Show with David Cross. And I mean, they were just, he is such ahead of his times, those two actors. I mean, they're so underrated for what they do, even though they've had some pretty prominent roles. My opinion, some of the better actors to come out in the last, 20x years.
Yeah, I think, and certainly Bryan Cranston, I think right now, probably make the argument he's the top 5 actor in the world. A large part because of Breaking Bad. I think what Vince Gilligan did for his career is pretty significant, and I think Cranston is taking advantage of it now. He's performing a lot, and Bob Odenkirk, I actually know his brother. He writes for The Simpsons, so Bob's background is also just as a comedy writer. Wrote for Saturday Night Live, and as you said, Mr. Show. So then to make the transition to be a dramatic actor is kind of fascinating.
That's very true. And I mean, even Bryan Cranston, I mean, I'm watching some old Seinfeld now and then, and I see him in there, and he's just so spectacular. Like, you didn't even know there was that great of a package in there, until it got out later years.
Even watching Malcolm in the Middle, they're so loved by all. You would never think that there would be something like that. Such a rich character, so much in-depth acting there. It was stunning. It was stunning.
It's definitely. Like he has all these he wants to contradict himself from show to show.
Yes.
He's not even wants to be not typecast, but he wants to be pushed to the ends of the earth on each role. Each one is more dramatic than the last.
That's a great point.
I kind of worry after that how much though he can still pull that off, because he's pushed it so far. It's like, man, I know the reach is endless, but he's really pushed a lot. He's got a big role ahead of him just to keep fresh on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So.
You have also written a book about a character from the TV show 24. Am I correct?
Yeah, the Tao of Jack Bauer.
Yes.
So it's about show 24, and it was the first post 9/11 thriller. So I think Americans are obviously on edge about terrorism, issues like torture, and this was the first real visualization of all of this. So very powerful show, well written, and it's has a powerful legacy.
I didn't realize until I was reading that your preface on your webpage that it was. I never thought of it that way, that it was the first one after 9/11. Never really put that together at the time. But how true was that? Like,
yeah, and actually, it was a coincidence, right? So 24 came out in 2001. It was already in production.
Yeah.
September 11th happened. So it wasn't born out of it. It just sort of coincided with it. And I think it has influenced perceptions of these issues over the years. Again, just being the first visualization, that in and of itself is very powerful. When it's different than reading about torture and terrorism, when you're actually seeing it on screen, it had measurable impact. I wrote a law review article about that impact in our judicial system. There were stories about Kiefer Sutherland actually speaking to an audience in West Point, soldiers, and telling them, not to torture. And they found boxes of 24 DVDs in Iraq. So, it had a powerful influence, for good or ill. And I think you can argue the politics of both. But it again, another show that's had a tremendous influence.
You've really captured some pioneering TV shows when it's all said and done. And what other shows do you have your eye on to? I mean, that's usually an ending question, but I'm going to ask you right now.
Yeah, like Black Mirrors that you're gonna that you're writing your book about. Now I'm so excited because I just loved the show. I was hungry for each episode. I think 2 of them I didn't watch because they were too scary. But the the similarities of what is going on with regards to social media and all of that it's almost scary knowing how much of the things through the TV shows and movies have been predictive of the future, starting from Star Wars and the Simpsons that we just talked about, how much of that is actually already becoming and will be becoming in the future. So if you can expand on that, what do you think about all of that, how it's going to implement into the future of ours?
Yeah. I completely agree with everything you said. I've been writing this book now for about 10 months. I'm pretty close to finish it, but then I'll take a while to actually have a publisher, so there'll be editing process and all of that. But I think I've learned more about the world from writing this book than any other. And I've been more scared and frightened about the future, based on just research and not just watching the shows, but reading what scientists and experts in these fields have said in terms of the impact of artificial intelligence, the amount of power that corporations like Google and Facebook have in terms of collecting data and creating profiles of us and using it for political and commercial agendas, thinking about our pervasive use of social media and episodes like Nosedive, where in Black Mirror someone becomes totally obsessed and there's a society that ranks folks based on their own rankings. They either receive or don't receive societal benefits. And you see, that's just one example. You see that in China and Venezuela, where China has this social credit system where people are denied access to flights and taxis and based on receiving low social credit scores based on factors that the government creates. Venezuela has something called fatherland cards. So the show is quite prescient and it's a lot of it has become reality. I think that it's scary. And I think the creator, Charlie Brooker, has said, essentially these shows are what our society could be if we're not careful. And it's a scary concept, because I think our lawmakers are not on top of these issues. I talk about that in the book. And when they talk to Google and Facebook, they're not asking the right questions. And all of these issues could lead to a depressing type of future. So,
do you think that it is still avoidable, or has it taken its course already, so to say?
So I don't think it's possible for us to, even if we delete our Facebook accounts, or stop using Gmail, I think it has gone too far in terms of just the amount of power that those corporations have. The government, a lot of our government officials use Gmail, and if Google feels like it, you can go look at their terms of use right now. They can block access to anybody they want. So if my book, for example, gets into the wrong hands, they could block me out of Google, and that has actually been known to happen. I think that certainly in terms of artificial intelligence, there's time to put the brakes on, to have effective regulation. My biggest fear, just based on research, something I wouldn't have known without, what I've been reading and writing about, is that, again, we're not asking the right questions. I think there are a few people who are well informed, and I think for the most part, the people in charge are not thinking about these issues in the right way. And if I may get just a bit political, not too political, I think when we see issues like essentially the obsession with Russia's interference in the election could be a real issue. Maybe there may be evidence, and not defending Trump in any way, but I do think that it is a distraction, a red herring from more significant issues. Even if Russia did all sorts of things that they're saying, even if Trump colluded and all these things, certainly issues to be concerned about. But the amount of power that the executives at Facebook and Google have in terms of the ability to influence what we learn, what information we have access to, it so far surpasses anything that I think one nation could do. And that to me is something I've learned.
Yeah, it definitely raises for me as personally the question of how much is what we hear or is actually not fake or true, but how much is there just to put out there so we don't listen to other things, and how much actually government or social media gurus like Google and Facebook know much more than we do, and this is just the front to much more behind the doors, so to say. And
I think that's absolutely right. And it's a difficult force to stop, to your question before. You could have regulations, but in the book, I talk a lot about the Twilight Zone. I think one of the great episodes, called The Howling Man, is when there's some team of monks, they're able to lock up the devil, and the devil is in human form. And he is imprisoned, and a good Samaritan is able to come by, and the devil, again, sort of disguising himself as someone who's a decent person, says, "These crazy people have locked me up. You have to let me out." And the Samaritan does let them out. And I make the point in the book that it's very much like our relationship with technology, that even if we do, put the brakes on, even if we're able to have effective regulation, once technology is introduced, once it is developed, you can stop it probably for a period of time. But the point Rod Serling makes about the devil, and I sort of analogize that to technology, is that once that door is opened, it's out there. We have nuclear weapons. There'll be artificially intelligent robots that can, destroy us. And it's a difficult thing to close the door on permanently. And I think that's a frightening prospect. So
I'm just going to interject for a sec. Guys, there is some buffering going on with YouTube, so don't forget, if it starts, kicks you out or buffering, just hit F5 on your keyboard. And if you're using Mac, it's Command R. Just want to let you know that it might take 2 or 3 tries. It's YouTube servers, not our fault. I wish we could fix it.
Yeah, one of our followers here says that was weird that you were talking about Trump and the stream crashed for some of the people here.
I was going to say, Google owns YouTube, so
that's right.
I'm sorry if I get you guys kicked off.
No.
Oh my God, that was so funny.
With your phones, just pull your screen down a little bit and let it refresh. That's usually do it. Sorry about that.
You talked about the questions the wrong questions that are being asked. What are the questions that we should be asking?
Yeah, I think, really is how much economic, social, political power should corporations have? I think that's one fundamental question. I think that most people don't realize the power that Facebook and Google have. The services they provide are basically free, but if there's a free service, it means that something is the product, and effectively we are the product, whether we're being sold to advertisers or to promote a political agenda, commercial agenda. So number one, I'd say, how much power do we want tech moguls and companies to have? I think that's sort of my primary question. Second, should inventors and developers be given free rein to develop? Is it akin to artistry, where you sort of have the artist with the free-flowing paintbrush, not really sure what direction they're going to go in, and just allow them to put together a portrait? Sometimes it comes out beautifully, sometimes it has some issues. That is how great art is created, but it's questionable as to whether we'd be willing to take that risk in terms of how technology is developed. Once something is introduced, as I said before, it's sort of impossible to put in the bag. So, as a society, I mean, how willing should we be to continue to use these technologies without really knowing the full scope of problems with them? In the course of the research I've done, you look at the Silicon Valley executives, Steve Jobs and Bill Gates. They didn't let their children have cell phones until they were teenagers. They're in the know, and most of us are not. The digital revolution has put technology in schools, and there's obviously a significant push to modernize education, and you see very gradually a shift away from that. If you look at certain wealthy neighborhoods, the ones who actually can afford the latest technologies, there's actually been a shift away from that in schools, and it's very gradual, but I think that is pretty telling as to what values we should be thinking about, and how potentially technology is having a detrimental effect on our lives. And look, there have been preliminary studies on the adverse consequences of Facebook and causing depression and anxiety, but who knows over a period of 50 years how that's changing the way our children see the world and interact with others. And I think there's a whole host of questions and possible consequences. And I should say, it's not all negative, right? I mean, even just in my experience, and I'm sure your experience, right? You're using YouTube right now. It obviously, technology affords a lot of opportunities. I would have never met Simpsons team without Facebook. I literally was contacted by people from the show through Facebook. So it certainly has its positive attributes, but we just need to be careful.
It's like everything else. In the right hands, it's a great tool. In the wrong hands, it's an awful weapon. And I mean, right. Everything that we ever developed in life has been that way.
That's absolutely right.
Absolutely. So we always say, it's just we got to try and get as many people doing positive things with it as possible. It sounds a bit shiny, but that's all we can do.
Absolutely. It's also like eating junk food in a way. I think, I put this in the book. We sort of know that junk food isn't good for us, and we've been able to, I think a lot of us figure out how to consume it in a reasonable way that it won't destroy us. Going on Facebook and checking updates 30 times a day, the problem with it is it's not like junk food in terms of our awareness, right? It doesn't feel destructive to check updates. But if you post a photo and you're looking for 50 likes or 2,000 likes, it's never enough, right? I think we've all had the experience of sort of doing that, and you come off this high, and then you sort of, if you take a step back, question, why am I feeling this way? Why do I feel depressed when there's this fleeting sort of moment where things go differently? And I think that you're dealing with addiction and all sorts of issues, but you as we consume it on a daily basis, I'm not sure that we're all as aware of it as we should be.
I agree with that. And even when you're watching, I mean, there is syndromes basically coming out of it now where people feel depressed about their own lives. You know, that Facebook living vicariously through, because of course the pictures people take as always the happiest moment in their life. Then they feel their life is not as fulfilled. There's a lot of impact, and their moods are controlled almost by their social medias.
Fear of losing out, you know, that is so popular now.
You know,
we're giving emotional control to strangers, right? And why would we do that? I think that's, you know, we're looking at what other people do. We're comparing statuses and people's vacations and what their kids are doing and what schools we're getting into and what jobs we're doing. And, you know, it's an interesting phenomenon. Or do we seek to show off to each other, or why are we doing this, and why are we giving that type of power to others? And there's never enough, right? It's a drug in that way. I think that, I mean, you see it in our leaders. Probably Donald Trump is sort of the worst example offender of this, but he talks about how many Twitter followers he has, and you know, there's never a number where you get to where you're satisfied. You're always looking higher, and you see that in that famous Black Mirror episode, Nosedive. I think that is just, you know, it's critical to just think about this. Be careful.
And not the technology, it's on what you see. Like, I mean, just because somebody's smiling with the kids in front of a house, it doesn't mean it's their house. They live thousands of miles away. They might be living in obscure poverty. Anybody can put on an act. And not taking everything as the God's word, for lack of a better term, when you see it, learning to rationalize it in your head.
And what I talk about in the book also is, you know, it's very easy to blame technology, right? But to play devil's advocate, and I think to be fair, technology is a reflection of us. It didn't invent any of these human tendencies. It's just a facilitator to allow us to compare, right? We always compared ourselves to our neighbors and what they had, and, you know, what other people are doing in life, and you know, all sorts of other things. It's just our little devices are giving us all of this information in just an insane amount of you know, content at once. So it's not that technology, you know, I think for a lot of these purposes, right, people enslave each other, people, you know, take advantage of each other in a host of ways. It's just that technology is an enabler of all of this, and that's what's scary.
Most definitely.
Yeah, and I mean, also social psychologists have been talking about how the whole generation changes because of that, and they have actually figured out that because of the time when Facebook started, and then the whole gadgetry of tablets and phones became more and more accessible to teenagers. They pinpointed into 2014 when it actually started to change and impact the whole generation of teenagers the way they are as a group. You know, the teenagers are more depressed, they're more anxious, and they have completely different values and scope of life than the generation before them. And that's pretty much is thanks to the social media and the involvement in their life, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I completely agree. And I think we still don't know all of the effects long term of all of this. And to me, that's what's particularly frightening. I think that, you know, there's no study that's sort of, you know, gone through all of this before the technology was introduced. And, you know, there are inventors on record who talk about, you know, their role as not being sort of a gatekeeping agency, but simply saying, look, if we can produce it. And I talk about that in the book, where there are executives who are saying, look, we're just kind of playing around with technology. Playing around was a quote. And, you know, these are folks who are developing potentially dangerous artificial intelligence and all sorts of things where people don't really know the power of what they're doing. And, you know, there's a debate. I mean, there are some who, Mark Zuckerberg is on the side of folks who say that, you know, we're sort of being maybe too cautious and too thoughtful about some of this, that there won't be this destructive sort of end game. Robots are not going to come and destroy us. And you have other people like Elon Musk, the head of Tesla, who, you know, is at the forefront of creating all of this technology, but also warns about the possible dangers of it. There's an engineer who I think he worked for, it's either Lyft or Uber. I don't want to say the wrong company. He was fired, and he's a disgraced kind of employee. But he developed an organization whose mission is to create a godhead, and an artificially intelligent godhead that will write its own Bible that we're all supposed to follow. And there's a group that follows this, and the idea being that, if artificial intelligence advances to the point where it's just so powerful and all-knowing, isn't it going to write a perfect Bible that we all should just follow blindly? So these are, and that's a smart individual, right? I think he's certainly controversial, but he's an engineer, and these ideas are out there, and there'll be followers for those points, and something to think about.
I wonder sometimes if that is partly a part of our evolution, because it has been so intertwined with our lives in each aspect, that this technology and becoming the artificial intelligence and all of the social media, it is really part of the human race evolution towards something in the future.
It is, and I think one of the maybe the comforting notions is that humans have been dealing with challenges like this. You can argue whether or not on this magnitude, but for generations, right? Machines have been around a long time. Twilight Zone did a brilliant episode about consequences of automation, and we're seeing more of that now. But look what industrialization did to the farmer, and how it uprooted lives of millions of people, and they were able to find replacements, often due to technology, right? Technology displaces folks. There's a McKinsey study that predicts that up to 800 million jobs could be lost to automation, which is a staggering number. But on the other side, there could be jobs created as a result of technology, ones that we don't know about now. So, a lot of changes are probably coming. But, I think that over time we've resisted or at least adapted to a number of changes. So, if I may, that's the hopeful aspect of it, I guess.
Yes, exactly. Well, there's always two sides of it all, and I guess we tend maybe as human beings focus more on the negative sometimes, but there are definitely both sides of the coin, so to say, for sure.
Black Mirror, by the way, has done that. I think that there was a famous episode, San Junipero, where two women fell in love, and we learned at the end that the spoiler is that they're actually chips. They're just living lives on chips on a server, and it was actually a very positive, uplifting idea that perhaps there'll be immortality for people, and infirmities and illnesses sort of won't matter as much. We can question the idea of life, death, and physicality, and the idea that people can exist in different forms. I talk a lot in the book about technology as a means to escape. I think of technologies like virtual reality, augmented reality, living life on a server. There are of course some dangers with all of this. Think of a hacker coming onto a server and messing around with people's lives, but you look at Black Mirror, they've also presented some positive outcomes of it, so a lot to think about.
Yeah, I think it's always a fear of something bad happening. It's the same with the self-driving cars now, and people are still fearing, although the ratio of accidents are so minimal comparing to the regular cars, but we still are afraid of that. And then imagine that we can have our consciousness tapped in, and somebody can hack it is frightening.
It's frightening. I think that when I going to the point I made earlier, what I would just like to see is that I would like to see our lawmakers be more thoughtful about this. To me, a lot of what's talked about is just big distractions. You think about climate change, right? We all know it's in some way that this is a danger, and you can argue global warming and, whether or not it exists and the scope of it and all of that. But at least we put that in the bucket of being a danger.
Mhm.
I don't know that enough folks, especially in Washington and around the world, put technology in that bucket. I think that, it's viewed as something that, well, frankly, we don't know enough about to put it in the bucket of being dangerous. And I think that if the right people are listened to, we do know enough to put it in that bucket. Why is it that it may be right? It may be the case that we don't do enough to save our planet from climate change, but we can't say that we at least haven't thought about it as a species. I think that technology, there has been, certainly insufficient regulation of these types of issues. You just ranging from privacy to just the dangers of automation. There's so much that could be done and thought about, and maybe you'd argue that regulation is not best, but I don't even see those debates happening, and that's concerning.
Is there anything that we as individuals can do personally, or like before we wait for the big questions from the government? Is there something that we can do in our own lives, or start at least? What do you think?
Yeah, frankly, if I could go back in time, I would seriously, debate not using Facebook and Twitter and all of that. I think that there's certainly legitimacy to the argument that it does more harm than good, and you can weigh all of that. I think that for our own individual lives, we can kind of be thoughtful about. I just think that we need to be very careful with what we let our children use. We need to think critically about, when our young children are using phones and iPads, do we know the full consequences of all of it? And maybe we're fine with it. Maybe we think, look, we want to be sold products. We want profiles created about us. There's benefits to all of that. But I think that, without knowing the true, and I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but without knowing the true agendas of some of these corporations, we just need to be careful in terms of how hooked up we are, how many devices we're buying, who we're letting in, think about who we're giving emotional control to on the internet, and why we would do something like that. If we think about these issues and come to the decision that overall, we're fine with it, okay. But I just think we should all be more thoughtful about it.
I agree with that, and I was just thinking, when you said a while ago about the idea of the Russians possibly tampering, like you say, you're not saying it's a bit of a smokescreen. That's also with like DGI. They found problems with Hawaii. I can never.
Hawaii?
No, not Hawaii.
Hawaii. Hawaii.
Yes.
I can't pronounce it either.
I hate that name because I can never do it right. But the whole point is, yes, that is most likely possible going on with them. But the thing is, it also smokescreen from what the country's own government's doing to them as well. It's easy to sit there and put it all on them, and it's always the outsiders looking in. That's a great way to keep eyes off of how much your own country's monitoring you as well.
Absolutely. I think, I think what Donald Trump has given us, at least me, I think he's convinced me that there's a significant amount of fake news out there. Black Mirror and Electric Dreams kind of tackle these issues also. I have a chapter devoted to this in the book. There's a great episode of Black Mirror, the Waldo moment, where basically a cartoon character is seeking power and achieves it in the end. And comparisons have been made, of course, to Donald Trump in a, sort of a grotesque type of orange character becoming president. And I think that, what's so interesting about that is we have so much information at our fingertips today.
Yes.
And you would think that, we would elect leaders who have great ideas and we're able to parse through fake news and figure out what's real and elect people who reflect our values. And Black Mirror and argue in our society, we don't necessarily do a great job of that. So why is that? And I think that's an important question to ask. Is it because of, Google? We can't necessarily trust what we read on Facebook or see on the news or CNN or Fox or whatever station. I know if I go on Facebook and I see a story that seems odd, I have no idea whether it's true or not.
Yeah.
And that's kind of scary, right? Like if you see something that doesn't seem likely, but I guess it's possible, you'll leave without knowing what's real and not. And
Yes.
it's a very threatening, big, huge threat to democracy.
Yep.
Again, as for a far greater threat than, meddling in our election. I as significant as that is, it's obfuscating the real issues that we have to contend with.
Well, yeah, that's very common. A lot of times when somebody's part of the problem, they're the first one to bring up the problem, and that's exactly where the lack of trust then starts to grow. And then in the end, where do you turn to?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think Trump is a great example of that, right? I mean, he'll accuse of fake news, and I think he has a valid point, but obviously he's not, he often speaks untruths. It's just,
yeah, not meaning it politically. Like, I'm not even for picking on him. I'm just saying in general, when you perpetrate it, it even brings up more questions, including the other one who's doing it, and against everybody. Nobody knows where to believe anymore. Everybody's kind of got their hands up in the air, and like, where do I go? Well, you told me Facebook is not good. Well, we got that. But now even the major news sources are no good, so where do we go from here?
I think that's one of the great ironies of our ages, right? That we live in the information age.
That's right.
And we theoretically have access to more information than ever. Now there are filters that are applied by these big corporations, and we don't necessarily know how they're doing the filtering.
Yeah.
But we want them to filter, right? I mean, if you type in best pizza in New York City, you want what Google says is best based on whatever complex algorithm. The problem is when you type in Donald Trump, or you type in Hillary Clinton, they're also doing filtering, and we don't know, what that's based on.
Exactly.
And, again, we sign up to Google, right? We want them to do that categorization. So to defend them a bit, right? This is their service. We know what that service is. The issue is that we don't know what goes on behind the scenes, and we're powerless to control it.
Yeah.
And it's just frightening for the future.
It's also creates these pockets of isolated interest, since Facebook and Google, it suggests you information based on information that you like, so it never really gives you information any other than that. So there is very rarely a different opinion or different types of interest than you're already seeking for. So it kind of counteractive to informing people about what is going on, because they never just are exposed to that type of information.
Absolutely. No, it's an excellent point. I mean, it's the echo chamber that we hear the views, reverberated back to us that we want to hear. And at times, Google can do the opposite and try to manipulate that. I mean, I think you see this on Facebook as well. Sometimes you will see a contrary article pop up that may make us angry, or it's sort of intended to push an agenda of Facebook for whatever reason. But I think for the most part, you're right. Pursuing this chamber, and hopefully just for commercial exploitation, right? I think, to me, best case scenario is they're just trying to sell us products. Worst case scenario is they're trying to control the world through, just this massive power that they have to control the flow of information. And to me, that's the biggest fear, because they've done studies. There was a Dr. Epstein of Harvard. There was this documentary called The Creepy Line. I talk about it in the book a lot, where he's done studies to show that if Google wanted to manipulate an election, they could change the votes of approximately 10% of people without the people knowing it. When you search for Trump on Google and you see a whole host of results, we may think that we're able to figure out which ones are positive and which are negative. According to the study, you're often not able to tell, and you're not able to decipher what's real from fake. And Google can, then paint this particular picture of a candidate in any way they want. And look, Trump was not the preferred choice of Google. I mean, I think there's little doubt about that. So maybe they didn't have a practical effect, but for the future, I think it's a frightening prospect.
We've talked a lot about fake news, and I want to go into your next book, and this is anything but fake. That's why I want to transition to it. Was From Poland to Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And this is something completely out of the realm from what you've written past. And I was wondering if you could tell everybody first a little bit about it, and then we can talk a bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is, as you said, very different, not about pop culture at all. This is about my grandparents who are Holocaust survivors, and they're Polish, and this is about their experiences during the Holocaust, and then also their lives in Brooklyn. So it was something that I wanted to write, really for my family, and I thought it was just important to document this. And as you said, speaking of fake news and sort of a misinformed, ill-informed generation, I just today read a statistic that 2/3 of millennials have never heard of Auschwitz concentration camp in Germany.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's frightening. So I thought having a book, like this is important to tell the accounts of survivors, and it was important one for me to write.
It couldn't have been an easy one. I've been to Auschwitz, and I don't try to milk it. I was a visitor. Let's call it for what it is. And I'll never forget it as long as I live, and it still comes back to you a lot. And that's just, like I say, not to overplay it, a visitor, and not to make fun of it. It's not like saying it's Disneyland. It's saying I would be mortified to even try to say that I understand any of the true feelings just going there for the day.
Yeah, I've never been there, so that's must have been a powerful kind of terrifying experience. Yeah,
you could feel it. Like, I'm not, like we were talking, I'm not a very paranormal person. I'm burden of proof, and I will believe. But there's something just there, and it's just the overwhelming sense of what happened. I mean, it's just a catastrophe. It's like walking into Hiroshima, in my opinion, right in the middle of the dead zone. Mass atrocity that you can't even begin to put your head around what you're seeing. You can smell it in the floorboards. You can smell it in the, it's there. There's no denying it.
Unfathomable. Yeah. It's important that accounts like that, be told, and organizations and museums to tell the stories of people. My grandfather lived till he was 99. He passed away a few years ago, and my grandmother's still alive, 94 years old. So,
wow.
But obviously the number of survivors is dwindling, and that statistic on the millennials is just so scary. History tends to repeat itself, and we say never again, but then you look at other genocide, or look at what's going on in Syria.
Yep.
I think a lot of as individuals, frankly, none of us really do much about it.
Yep.
I don't know. I've never Googled how to help Syria, refugees. I've never spent an hour looking into that, and I'm assuming a lot of people haven't. And it's an indictment probably of all of us, because we say never again, and I'm not sure that any of us really hold to that.
Yes, and that is true. And that's like when somebody passes away tragically, and everybody kind of comes together. I was in a small town, so you see it a little bit more because the whole town kind of comes into it.
Yep.
Everybody kisses their kids a little bit harder that night. Everybody makes a New Year's resolution that they're going to follow through more onto. And you kind of do it with good intentions, but then quickly we're just people that seem to always life goes on. And before you know it, it's a distant memory, but it is happening again. You don't remember until the next time something comes up, and then you get more and more.
Yeah. I think it's a defense mechanism.
Yes.
I'm not a psychologist, but I'm assuming we're programmed in that way in some respects. But irrespective of all of that, it's obviously just important to never forget any of this. And it's great that you visited Auschwitz, and an important thing to do.
Yeah, it was a tour through multiple, actually 12 countries, and that was my time in Poland, was going there, and I'm like, I gotta go. I want to see this. But you're right. Like when I tell my younger kids, they don't quite even know what's happened. And I mean, not the youngest one, but my 21-year-old even. It's amazing how that that story is already starting to fall. I don't want to say on deaf ears. He's aware of it, but I don't think they appreciate the atrocity that happened, or the atrocities like you said are happening now.
Yeah, no, I mean, you see these issues, right? The rise of anti-Semitism, and people, blame Trump or blame whoever. You see the nationalist tendencies coming up in the world, and I think that's particularly scary. I think that minorities and Jewish people, I think in particular, do well when there's a centrist type of government, right? When there's not a hard left or hard right.
Yes.
I think that, frankly, I think most minorities would probably do pretty well in the middle. And I think the reason, I'm not a political analyst, but I think that the reason that people succeed in the middle is because a lot of issues are pretty complicated. And when you take an extreme position on most issues, it's probably the wrong one, because there's a reason something is an issue. There's usually two sides to a debate. I mean, just what we talked about before in terms of technology.
Yes.
You had years ago a group called the Luddites, and they came in and they lost their jobs, and they had destroyed factories and technology, and they just got rid of all of it. I don't think that's the appropriate response to technology. I think that we had like this thoughtful discussion that everyone should be having, just like all these different political issues. When you take an extreme position, it hurts a lot of people who I think shouldn't have to sort of deal with the consequences of extremes on both sides.
I agree with that. Neil brought up a very good point about on both sides, and that's I've always had this expression: it takes two wings on a bird to fly. And you need that balance. Right. And it really does, and like you say, on one side the majority will suffer, the other one the minority will suffer, and even the majority in one place, if they go and move to another country will quickly realize that they've become the minority, and they feel the blunt from that. Absolutely. And we should evolve enough by this point in the world that we're in to become more centralized governments. I agree. I like that point. We're not, and that's fortunately human nature doesn't catch up as quick as learning, but yeah, it really should be more at that point at this era in the world.
Yeah, and like absolutely, I completely agree. The hard left and the hard right have a lot of things in common in terms of, lack of openness, lack of inclusion.
That's right.
Unless you're the group that they want to include, and I think that.
Well, it's one of those ones where there's always going to be people losing.
Yeah,
and you can't have peace when there's always going to be an imbalance, and I'm not trying to do the Coca-Cola everybody hug and smile. Just normal day-to-day living things get done better when you have a more centralized version of a government, because everybody's kind of winning from it. It's more on those points and not so much on the individual, but the better of the group as a whole, more inclusive. Yeah,
I mean, I always think that it would be best if the debate was sort of the moderate conservative versus the moderate Democrat. Yes. I think that's a great, reasonable discussion. I think that's where our country was probably during the Clinton years. I guess I was younger then, but that's my kind of perception of it. And I think it's we've had fairly extremes since then. I think people argue Obama was the reason for Trump, and Trump is this populist. You could see the country go the other direction, and at some point you start to worry about if the balance tilts too far in one way, is there a point of no return, and right. If we become a socialist country, for example, I'm not talking about the merits or cons of that, but I mean, is there a turning point? If you decide no, we shouldn't be, I think it's much harder to turn back. So those are issues people need to be careful about. And again, on the millennial study, that I just happened to read this today, the same article that mentioned Auschwitz, I think it was majority of millennials don't know what socialism is, and yet they say they support it. That's scary. That's the threat to democracy. There's a whole lot that I think most people don't know, right? I just take, for example, I didn't know much about technology until I studied it carefully for the last 10 months. I couldn't have spoken to these issues before I read about it. Yet I think one of the problems in our discourse is you have a lot of people, even newly elected members of Congress, speaking about issues that they don't know much about. Right. And that's always scared me. And by the way, I think Trump is obviously a candidate for that criticism as well.
Well, I hope things will even out more in the future, and that's one thing we can shoot towards. And for your story on Poland, so you had never been to Auschwitz, but I mean, none the fact you do have a very strong connection to it through family and stuff and stories. It must have been brutally hard to write.
Yeah, it was very interesting. So what I remember is I recorded my grandparents on a tape recorder, and I didn't want to be interviewed for other projects. I think Steven Spielberg had done that famous project where he interviewed survivors, and they didn't want to talk about it with others. They very openly talked about it with me. Very willing to. I didn't coerce them. They wanted to do that, and I just remember one of the days where I was recording. I vividly remember this. I was talking to my grandfather, and my grandmother was trying to feed me, which is something she always did. She's an old sort of Polish Jewish grandmother. And I remember she was like trying to get me French fries or something, and it was I couldn't believe it. I said I can't eat while I'm talking about this. This is getting to my stomach while everything we're talking about. And I guess the number of years had passed where to her it was just a discussion. It wasn't right. She wasn't internalizing it at that moment, but I think certainly it had a significant impact on their lives, and they had it was very difficult to deal with in the years following. And I think thankfully by probably the 90s, I think they were living comfortable lives and all that, but to be able to have a conversation about that while eating, that was very strange to me. But it affected them greatly, and remarkable people. I think any survivor has things that are just a toughness about them that you don't find in others.
It must have been like bone chilling to hear from them, and like you say, especially the way she was telling it. They could serve you a meal.
I always remember that. It was yeah.
I'm showing some people, just like while you were talking, just a couple of photos that I took from Auschwitz, and there was the one where the beds, of course, it's all stone walls and a wooden bed, 3-tier high. And that's where I found that smell was the strongest. And it's funny, I look at the pictures today, I can still smell it. I really can. It's still there. And the toilets, I just want to really show everybody this one. This is cement blocks. There was a couple of them, and literally it came out to 250 toilets, back to back, row to row, that 12,000 people had to use once in the morning and once at night. Wow. And that paints a pretty strong picture of what life. It's it really sticks with you. I seen somebody else, I'm sorry, I forget now who it was in the chat. I have a bad memory. Had wrote their wife or girlfriend was there this summer and said the same thing. It does stick with you for a long time. So, really great. It looks so. The lives of my grandparents, 2 Holocaust survivors. I mean, that must be such an honor to have that there. They must have been very proud of you for doing so.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good feeling to be able to do that. I know my grandfather used to keep my books like all together very neatly in a drawer. I remember that he'd take them out and read them. So that, I mean, it was an honor for me.
Of course,
honored to be their grandson. So absolutely, that was they had a very big influence on my life, and they lived a few blocks away. My grandmother right now actually lives a few blocks away from me. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And how old is she?
94.
She's 94. She's in an assisted living home, but just like 3 blocks away. So we go there, bring the kids there, and she's doing well.
That is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Well, I said that a lot of people, not just in the Holocaust, but in war in general, a lot of people who've seen that lived long lives. I truly believe, because after that, what stresses you out anymore?
I think that's absolutely a great point. I think yeah.
We spend our lives driving ourselves crazy because we're in traffic, everything going on, the kids, and after that, breathing the air, it is all you need to get through your day, really,
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I thank you for sharing the story about them and that, and it's really incredible. Yeah, I'm glad you got to do that. So what is your plans for the future? Where do you see yourself going? You're already looking at books. I'm wondering what you're researching onto. I still feel with you there's a lot of new interests coming in, and I feel there's many more books along the way.
Oh, I hope so. Thank you for saying that. It's funny. I think as I'm writing a book, there's kind of nothing else I could think about in terms of writing. And I said to my wife recently, especially this book, one that's about technology, that's such a sort of a dark topic, but also kind of an awe-inspiring topic in terms of potentialities, and it's such a big issue to write about. It's hard for me to picture like going back and writing about some sort of show that doesn't have as much meaning. I've tried to pick shows over the years that have had like an influence in our world. You know, just think about The Simpsons and just all of its impact. 24 as the first show after 9/11. Better Call Saul, I think on an individual level, how a person can change based on circumstances. And then this is kind of the biggest topic of all, technology and its potential, for good and bad in the world. It's hard to picture anything else. I'd like to write more in the future because I enjoy it. I don't have any idea. I'm welcome for it if people have ideas and interesting shows. But I will say this: the book that I'm writing, it goes beyond just Black Mirror and Electric Dreams and the Twilight Zone. I think I reference approximately 90 films based on AI. Television shows. I think I have around 60 TV shows. There's so much out there. If you just think about a show like The Office, we would not think of that show as one that promotes any conception of technology. But I just happen to be watching it, a careful viewing of it shows that technology in an office, just how it has an impact on how people work.
Right.
And I've been putting a lot of that into the book, for example. So people will pick up the book, hopefully, and, kind of expect these, dark Twilight Zone and sort of fantasy worlds and alternate realities. And there's a lot of that in there. But there's also the more mundane environments, and to show how technology kind of infiltrates our lives, even when, as you're writing these shows, you're not necessarily, they're not intending them to be technology based. Right. I think that's kind of the biggest point of all, right? That, for shows that are not trying to create a technology infused environment, but they can't escape technology. There's an episode just coming to mind where, Michael Scott in The Office, he is trying to win back clients who have left because they've gone to other companies who have better technology, better websites, for example. And he says that, customer service is key, and he delivers them like gift baskets of like chocolates and things, and they don't care about it. They say, no, we want the website, we want to save money and all of that. And it was an interesting juxtaposition, because on the way home, on the way back to the office, he is using GPS, and he just blindly follows it into a lake. And it's kind of fascinating. And he comes back and he says, technology forced me to go into a lake. So, to hell with it, right? We don't need the websites. We don't need any of it. It's obviously a very glib kind of take on things. It's obviously a lot of nuance, and that's kind of the point of it. It's a comedy, but it's fascinating to see technology in all of those ways. So to answer the question, right, I think what I'm working on now, it goes very far into the pop culture lexicon. There's a lot in there. We'll see with the future. I'd like to write more, but depends what else is put on TV or other ideas. I don't know.
Well, it's funny. I have some reruns on here on discs that I just throw in now and then when I'm working. I don't know why, when I got Netflix and I have one a bit of Drew Carey. I don't know if you remember that show.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
And I was thinking the same thing about it. It was funny when you watch that show now and see how he was actually kind of pushing the new technologies. You could see it from season to season, the first IMAX and that, as he became more web-based, the stores started taking on a more internet retail side. There's a lot of these shows that really are kind of like at the forefront, either at the time, a little bit ahead of itself, or a lot ahead of itself. But yeah, I was thinking that. Just funny you were mentioning that, and that was just something that came in my head a couple of weeks ago. Catching that.
That's interesting. I mean, it's fascinating. It's actually kind of been the process I've been going through after kind of analyzing and writing about the primary shows, those three are kind of the Black Mirror, Electric Dreams, Twilight Zone. It just so happens that anything I'm watching on Netflix or
Yes.
anything it just, in fact, I'm having my biggest issue right now is trying to put a halt to the writing. I just watched the not really a high quality show, I guess, but I enjoyed watching it. The show You on Netflix.
I don't see it.
It's sort of this it's about this stalker guy who's after this woman, and it just, you sort of get into it, you kind of binge watch it. Not a, it's not a deep show or anything, but
Right.
it's, social media is the critical component of the show. He stalks her through social media, he steals her phone. I mean, he sort of controls her life through social media. So I'm like, all right, I gotta sort of add this to the book now, and that's kind of what I've been doing. So I may have to watch Drew Carey's, but no, it's the truth is that anything I've been watching, there's some tie into technology, and that, I think that's the biggest lesson of all. That we're so affected by it in so many ways, and it creates everything. It's just interesting.
When you were saying about, like, when now you're watching, you're trying to stop writing. That's like Xenia. She's originally from Latvia, and when we were first together, I come from a very small town, eastern Quebec, and once everybody got to know her and they loved her right away, and that it was so funny because once your radars are up, was like her with that. Everybody's heard Latvia come up in the Winter Olympics or somewhere like that, but all of a sudden everybody kept calling or messaging on Facebook. Oh, I seen Latvia in the hockey, in the hockey last night. Or I've seen hockey. Oh, they're doing good in the curling. This little country they never paid attention to.
And then Simpsons started to mention Latvian sneakers.
Seinfeld especially.
Oh yeah,
and
my God,
Family Guy.
that was Family Guy. But Simpsons had it too. Oh my God, it was everywhere.
It was funny on Seinfeld because they did the Latvian Orthodox Church where Kramer meets that girl.
Yes.
And it never even they picked it thinking it never existed, but it actually did exist in some shape and form. And they started thanking them, sending them letters of gratitude for bringing awareness to this church that they.
I never knew it existed. Yeah. Coming from there, that's funny.
Yeah. So.
Slowly getting into the next theme of it, I wanted to ask, like, because you write about such a pop culture, you use material that. How do you get through with using or citing material that is copyrighted? And that's the question that I think is a lot of people here in the chat has. About that, and since you are consultant on intellectual property rights, I wonder if we could tap into your knowledge about that, with regards to your books and in general about copyright. How do you do that?
That's a great question. I'm glad you asked. It actually, the intersection of intellectual property and writing, it actually got me interested in law. And when I first started writing about The Simpsons during college, I just sort of thought that maybe it's an issue using pictures of The Simpsons, but I never would have thought that a picture of myself on the back cover wearing a Simpsons t-shirt would be a problem, or including the list of quotes from the show that I had chosen at the front of the book, just listing them out. Never thought that'd be an issue. Just didn't know anything about fair use or copyright or trademark or any of these concepts. So when I was publishing the book, the publisher hired an intellectual property lawyer and said, "Oh, you got to change your picture on the back. You're wearing a Simpsons shirt. That's copyrighted. You got to take out the quote list at the front." And what I was told was that fair use, which is the defense to copyright infringement. So, the basic rule is that the author of a work owns the copyright, and there are some exceptions. They can have different agreements, and there's something called the work made for hire doctrine. But basically, The Simpsons owns the Simpsons, right? They own everything they write. So how can someone write or comment about it, or use a picture or anything like that? One defense and one way you can do that is through fair use. And what I always tell people, this is the field of law that I practice, is that it's really an art, not a science, what fair use is. So the idea is that, just in the context of a book, you can take a quote from Homer Simpson and analyze that quote. That's academic criticism. you're allowed to sell a book that analyzes all of Homer Simpson's quotes. What you're not allowed to do is, take a list of the quotes that he said and just kind of stick it in the book, or have a quote book and don't really say anything about it. That would be probably problematic. And I say probably because it's not a science. There's no strict rules as to what would constitute fair use. You're basically always infringing on an owner's copyright whenever you use what they're saying. But you're able to comment on it, use it in a different way, take small portions of it, and that would allow you to the freedom to sort of go into it and think about it. And I think if you just think about the public policy behind all of that, The Simpsons deserves everything, all of the royalties and everything for what they create. It would be wrong for an author to say, well, I'm going to have a book just listing out what they did. But what they've done, of course, is created stuff that is worth talking about, and it would be poor public policy to just prohibit authors, others from thinking about what they've said. So that's basically how I think of it. And I think, when I talk to my publisher, frankly, they have a very conservative view on this. They've told me, oh, you should use, less quotes or less plot summary because you're stealing from the shows, or we need to be really careful. I personally disagree, right? Based on my experience, I have sort of a different formulation of what I think is fine. And what's funny is that when I first wrote the book, I again, not knowing anything about law or anything, I was kind of scared. What if the Simpsons come after me? And I was kind of scared to send it to them or anything like that. And it was true that, meeting them all the years and getting the positive feedback years later, it was kind of the ultimate validation of all that. Not only did they accept it, but they enjoyed it. That was meaningful. But there's always a line in terms of quoting and using pictures. I would not put a picture of any of these shows on my cover, for example. I had one publisher that didn't want to put a picture of a pink donut, and it was I disagreed. Right? They thought that The Simpsons owns pink donuts, and they don't. They don't own pink donuts. You can get one that's in the public domain. You just don't get the pink donut that's drawn by the Simpsons animator,
right?
Unless you get permission. The other thing that some people do is seek permission, and to use photos or specific quotes or songs or whatever. I've actually never done that, and I think the main reason, two reasons. One, it's probably timely. You have to go through a bunch of lawyers, basically people like me, who are gonna most likely say no all the time because it's in the company's interest to say no unless you pay them a lot of money.
Right.
The other reason, though, and I think the real benefit of not going through a production company and an official studio is it gives you the freedom to say whatever you want. I've been overwhelmingly positive reviews of the shows I've written about. But if I ever felt like saying something slightly negative, maybe something they don't agree with in the slightest, I have the freedom to do that. And if they were given like veto power over what I write, that takes away that type of independence. So the way to be really safe is either use nothing, no quotes, no plot summary, or get permission. But I think this field of television criticism, television analysis, it's a well-defined field of work, and it's widely accepted that use of small quotations that are analyzed properly is absolutely acceptable. And I feel confident that if the Simpsons turned on me for any reason, I'd win the lawsuit, even though I don't want to go up against their probably 10,000 lawyers. But it's something that it's a good question. I think that you always have to be sort of cognizant about.
And especially if you're not using it for any slander purposes or anything as well, and type 2, that's defaming the brand or harming the brand and stuff like that.
Yeah, and look, The Simpsons, there have been issues. There was one unauthorized Simpsons book that the Simpsons didn't like. It was sort of a behind the of scenes type of scandalous book. And The Simpsons had threatened to sue, and I sort of heard about stories of this from one of the writers. And I think it was one of the things that made them happy with my book, that I sort of was pretty positive. Practically it's an advertisement for the show. So I've had that conversation with publishers as well, because they'll say, "Oh, are you sure you can use a quote of this length?" Or, "Did you analyze it to the way that, would this be fair use?" And I'll say, "Look, they're not going to sue practically." Right. My view, based on my experience, is that there's no practical issue here. You go in front of a judge. If they did sue you, a judge can do anything, right? This idea of fair use is very subjective.
Yes.
So there's always some degree of risk, but I think the you just have to be careful about it, and be reasonable.
Wiseman Photography was in here. They made a comment saying, that it becomes an automatic minefield, and that's exactly what it is when you get into it, because there's no real precedence on anything, because it's case by case in the end. I mean, I know there's some parameters, but they're so loose and so vague.
Yeah, look, that's why I have it. I mean, that's why I have a job, right? Lawyers are in business because, the truth is, I'd probably give different answers in my professional career than I do for myself. I think that if a client comes to me and says, is something acceptable or not, most of the time the answer is probably going to be no. If there's a question about it, based on, if you work for a company and you want to sort of be conservative. In your own personal life, you think, hey, look, The Simpsons, actually, I'm sort of friends with these people. Are they really do me? Like, you sort of that into account as well. So,
well, that's a big part of it too. You built a repertoire with them over the years. They're familiar with what you've done. You built a bond with them. It gives you more confidence in doing what you do. And I mean, they obviously see your intentions are not ill will.
Yeah. So, I mean, I will say this, and this is sort of, I guess never revealed, but one of the Simpsons director friend of mine offered to write a foreword to my Simpsons book, to a new edition, and I was so excited, thrilled about it. And it was just turned down by the Simpsons legal department, who hadn't looked at the book. He basically went to them, and he's been at the show for almost since the beginning, and he said, "Hey, I love this book. It's sort of all animators, we all have this book. It's great. It's all around the office, and new edition is coming out. Can I write a foreword?" Without blinking, like, no, of course not. It's not an official book. We're not going to do that. We're not going to spend our time vetting it to make sure. And again, going to that independence point before, I had the same experience with Better Call Saul. I had one of the actors in the show, one of the primary actors, read the book, read a manuscript of it, offered to write the foreword, and again, same exact experience. He was just told no. So I keep those as personal, sort of, at least they were willing to write it. It's sort of a nice feeling, but it's the reality of the world that sometimes law and business and it kind of, these big corporations sort of get in the way and trump people's creative freedom. These people wanted to express themselves and were kind of stopped by their companies. So not saying anything bad.
That's what happens too, is because the technology side ties into that. It's like you say, now some people are very quick on the draw to do stuff without covering their bases like they used to, and there's more ways to get caught doing it as well.
Absolutely.
It ties right back to what you were talking about a while ago. It's almost full circle once again.
Yeah. And look, I think as a lawyer, most of the time we joke about this because I work for a company, and most of the time when a client at the company comes to you and asks you something, the answer is going to be, no, you technically can't do that, but I know you will anyway, so I'm not really sure why you're asking. Like, I'm not going to stop it. It's not, it doesn't arise to the level of, being maybe illegal or creating a terrible risk, but it's probably not the right thing to do. And, practically, you'll go ahead with it. So, go ahead. Like that's usually the answer. And it's sort of a strange answer, because you're advising clients of the law, but you also have kind of a business hat, and you want to be practical.
Right.
So you don't want to shut down your company's work because there's this technical issue that may not really be a practical one. So
yeah, no, exactly. It is a gray field, and we deal with it a lot here on YouTube. We've had our own stories with it. Lots of people have as well. And it's protective. You're better off doing your own thing and not touching it as much as possible, to making it your own, and save yourself what could turn into a serious headache. Because like you say, there's no guarantees in life. There's none. And especially in that one, it's not a cut and dry issue if you end up in front of a court, and you could. There's never, it's never impossible.
It's absolutely right. It's absolutely right. I mean, I'll tell you, the publisher I'm working with right now is extremely conservative on these issues. And part of the, the back and forth that we'll have is, oh, you shouldn't cite this so much, or you gave away the ending of the show, or it's actually been one of the challenges. They've told me that I can't reveal spoilers, for example.
Oh.
No.
It gave me a lot of pause. I said, well, how can I write about Black Mirror without kind of talking about the ending? It's, this show is basically like the Twilight Zone, where the twist is sometimes a big part of the, the idea. That reveal is sort of critical. That's forced me to be kind of creative and dissemble sort of what I've been writing, and kind of, maybe frankly be a little more sneaky about getting the plot in there without, being overt about it. So, it creates challenges for, writing and analyzing these issues. So it absolutely exists. Every day when I write, I have this on my mind.
Well, it's very interesting to hear a point, and it must be interesting for you when you're talking to them and they're telling you about the legal bells and everything, and you being a lawyer yourself, because that's a luxury that not everybody has. It must also be confusing in the hats to be on the other side,
Yeah, it's frustrating. I mean, I was being frank, and it's funny because I spoke to my editor about it, and he said, I'm actually very interested to hear about your experience and what you think of these. And then he added, and he said it in a nice way, of course. He's like, but frankly, we can't budge, right? We are what I'd like to hear it as an anecdote, but this is our corporate policy. You're not our lawyer, and we're not budging from this. We can't be hit with a lawsuit. But I'm interested to hear what you have to say. That was kind of the conversation.
My God.
So it was it's frustrating, but it is what it is. And I think having the backing of publishers is important as well, and they need to protect themselves. And it's I understand their way of thinking.
Well, that's what I was gonna say, and that's the frustrating part, because you probably you want to get that opening, but at the same time too, you're probably thinking, if I was their lawyer, I'd be saying the same thing to me right now.
Yeah, exactly right. Right. They have to be, their primary goal is to be protective of the company, and they will not be in a position to defend these types of lawsuits. I can make various reasons why a television studio would not want to sue a small person or company, right? I think that would be pretty bad PR.
Mm-hmm.
But beyond that, again, if you're sort of advertising their show, it's sort of, why would they? Resist it. But again, you look at shows like The Simpsons, and Disney hasn't done this over the years, and even AMC and Breaking Bad, they have absolutely filed a number of lawsuits against counterfeiters. Probably less in the book space, though there have been those as well, and some studios. But there was I think it was a beer that was created by I forgot the name of the company, but arguably, the claim at least was that it allegedly infringed on Heisenberg. It was called like Heisenberg beer, or something like that.
Right.
And obviously, I'm not going to give my opinion on it. But none of this is legal. It's just right. But the idea is that studios can sometimes go after companies, and I think think about the context though, right? That's beer, and arguably a negative connotation. What if there's accidents, drunk driving because of that? Now you have Breaking Bad in a news article. Well, okay, maybe you can understand why the studio wouldn't be thrilled about that. Right. And it's maybe something that is maybe more valuable to commercialize than a book. So I think a lot of factors go into it. I don't see a significant problem with publishers going after people who are freely writing about television shows. I don't see that as a sort of a trend, but we have to be wary of it.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. That's once again is always the caution. It's always caution into it, And we have that a lot. Like a lot of careers coming up. There's so much material available. Music, video, photography, and so many you have to be so careful with. And it's very easy because some do pirate the stuff, throw it on their site, and say it's all free. Well, so that's why we just try to reiterate with everybody, because you never know when somebody could pick up the cause, and it does happen too. I had a sign business here, and there was a girl in Montreal who did wigs, and she had, that vinyl they put in front of their windows with the images on it, and it was this girl, great looking shot, very catchy, except she hired somebody to do it. A girl traveling here from Sweden happened to be walking, and it's not in the downtown core. It was in a weird spot, like more off the beaten path a bit. And she happened to recognize her because she knows of her. She was an up-and-coming model over there, and she knows the photographer. And they snapped the picture, told the one in Sweden. Sweden found out through the store who was the graphic designer, and they got hit with a $2,600 a settlement in the end to let it go. And when you're small and starting out, that's a lot of money.
It is. No, it is. And you mentioned photos and taking pictures. Sort of made me think, just the nexus with technology. You just think about what goes on in social media with sharing pictures and just constant sort of infringement of rights. I mean, that's basically, frankly, that's basically what social media is.
Yes.
I think that if a studio took the position that you can't I don't know, pose with a picture of the Simpsons or post that or whatever, I mean, I think that would obviously be the outlier. I think it's just the modern trend is that these copyright laws are not being followed. I think we all violate them all the time, and it would be sort of absurd for them to just pick on somebody randomly.
Yes.
And I think that's also part of the way I come at a lot of this. It's like, well, the risk of somebody choosing you when there's millions of other people sort of sharing photos in a way that infringes, you have to think about, why would they come after you? Is there this commercial risk? Is if I were to pose in front of a picture of Google and I wrote a whole sort of terrible thing about a piece about Google, maybe they'd want to come after me because they don't like what I wrote or something like that. Sure. If my book becomes that popular and I'll that would be it'd be nice, right? I think if it gets the attention of Google. So, but it's wishful thinking in that way.
No, exactly. But it's a good point, though. It's a very good point.
Some people tend to think that copyright shouldn't exist at all. How would you comment at all? Like, if you put content out there, well, it should be accessible to everybody.
To do as they please with it.
Yeah, so comment on that.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's a valid argument. I think in the software world, there's something called open source software, which essentially is that, right? It's software that's free to use, and you can sort of get caught up with that because if you combine your own proprietary elements, you may have to share everything. There's some issues with it, but that's the basic idea, right? And just to use the software context, I think I think about the public policy, right? So if just take The Simpsons, for example, who are developing all of these great characters and quotes and writing, and we all talk about it and analyze it over years. And, it's something that lives through the generations. Shouldn't those writers and artists and frankly, the company who funds it, have sort of free reign to do what they want with it? Shouldn't they collect all the royalties and get all the glory and fame? I think they should. Now, that's, you can argue that, look, once something is put out, they'll make their money on the initial airing or something, and then everybody else should be free to use their characters. So the way that copyright law in the United States works is that we've kind of struck a balance that the copyright owner owns the work for the duration of their life, and then for a period of time after. Depending on the type of the work, it's like 70 years or 95 years, something along those lines. So, for example, a number of the Walt Disney characters, this has been discussion over recent years. I haven't followed, year by year what character was created when, but I forgot what year Walt Disney died or was frozen or whatever happened to him. But
I know
at some point his characters enter the public domain.
Yep.
Now there have been lobbyists, right? I think who actually extended that period. I think
Yes.
I forgot the history of this, but there was the copyright term used to be shorter.
Mm-hmm.
One day, if it hasn't already happened, some of those characters will be in the public domain, and what that means is that anybody will be able to write a book about Mickey Mouse without fear of threat from a lawsuit from Disney. Now, that being said, Disney's a powerful company, so they're also very clever, and they've argued, I think, pretty effectively that some of their characters are not just copyrightable, where there's this final term where one day they'll enter the public domain, but some of the characters are actually trademarks. And if I may sort of take back what I said about writing that book about Mickey Mouse, the reason you probably won't see that happen is because Mickey Mouse is basically synonymous with Disney.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, you can argue, I think, pretty effectively that it is a trademark. And
Yes.
a trademark is different. A trademark is a brand.
Yeah.
So, like the Walt Disney name, Kleenex brand, tissues.
Mm-hmm.
These are brands. These last forever. They don't expire at all.
Yeah.
Think of names of popular products. So, I think some of the more minor characters, their copyrights will expire. And like I said, I think, here's a good example. I'm pretty sure Sherlock Holmes is in the public domain. I believe that there may have even been stories where an author will just use the character of Sherlock Holmes and make their own story, and there's no threat of lawsuit. I'd have to check that. I think Sherlock Holmes, there was an example that came to mind, but that happens from time to time. If it's just copyrights, if it's a trademark, like a brand identifier, then you would not be able to do that.
Right.
Because that lasts forever. So look, I think to answer your question, right, everybody's free to entitled to their opinion and how we'd sort of allocate rights and all of that. I think that the system we have is relatively fair. I think you can argue about how long the duration of a copyright should last. Should it be 70 years after someone dies? Like, it's arbitrary, obviously, but should it be for their whole life? I mean, shouldn't they obtain all the benefits if you have this idea of fair use? So again, let's say you infringe someone's copyright, but you do it in a way that, what's called a transformative use. You're using it in a way that maybe you analyze it, or maybe you use the copyright in a way that brings something else to the world. Somebody may create a certain character. Now, I'll give an example of Homer Simpson. They created Homer Simpson. Maybe my book adds a bit of color to what he said. So shouldn't I be allowed to say that? I think that's the balance that we basically strike.
Right.
But you can argue for different ways to look at all of that.
It's a good point. Yep. No, and I agree with that. We've seen that happen in other cases too with photography, where there's a big channel on here, and one of their followers happened to take a picture of an iPhone case in Australia, and lo and behold, not only the picture of the girl out of the team that has this photography channel, but they actually took the photo that's used in the cover of their book that they sell and used that as the packaging for this iPhone case, and never even sent as much as a basic request to it. It took 2 years, they said? Or?
Yeah, but they wanted at the end of it because it was part of their brand as well, not just a copyright of the picture, as you were saying. So they won that case, which is crazy sometimes. And even bigger companies. I remember Canon just I think a month ago used a picture on their website that was copyright.
Yeah, that's true. That's right. I forgot
that was
about
copyrighted and pretended it was available when in fact it wasn't. So nobody is I guess guarded from that, but we all have to be aware of the limitations that we can work within. I guess it's just such a bush of everything. I guess minefield, as you were saying before. Yeah,
it is. People ask me these questions all day long at work, and like I said, often the answer is, look, you're not really allowed to do this, but you also have to think about the risk of a lawsuit and the arguments on both sides, because a lot of it is not so clear cut.
Right.
If someone is, for example, create an internal presentation on a PowerPoint and you're using a picture from a movie and you're presenting this to people. I mean, are you allowed to do that? Technically, you're not. You're infringing on the copyright of the movie. But, is anyone going to find out? What's the harm to the I think it's helpful to think about these issues in a practical way. The strictly legal one is, most of the time you probably shouldn't, depending on how conservative you are. But you just take a different whatever perspective on it.
Like taking somebody's brand and using it like slanderous, like the actual brand itself and stuff like that, or tarnishing the image of a business or a...
Yeah, there are different types of cases. So there's infringement, and there's something called disparagement of a mark or a brand, and that's sort of, as you said, saying bad things. And there have been cases on all of that as well. And it's always it's kind of interesting. You'll always get the ones where somebody will kind of knock an entire company and say all these terrible things, and is that protected or not? You also have free speech laws, right? The First Amendment is obviously extremely strong in our country, stronger than most places. So these issues come up against that, because in our country you're basically supposed to be able to speak pretty freely, subject to some limitations. So how do all of these rules jive with that? Is using a picture, right? I mean, sort of not being able to use a picture an infringement on your free speech rights. These issues often come up together.
Yeah, but what I mean is especially is with the brand itself, like the logos and stuff like that. Something that truly like a McDonald's or a GMC. Or,
And by the way, they're just to not to get too technical with it, but the owner of a trademark actually is required by law to maintain their brand. So, for example, if you had sort of a company that was very lax about maintaining their brand, let's just say Coca-Cola, which is the opposite. Coca-Cola is very diligent with this, but let's just say they didn't investigate knockoffs, and they didn't have a monitoring service, and they kind of let that issue go on.
Right.
The more you sort of let infringements happen, your own brand and mark, by just in terms of law, becomes weakened. You could lose your rights to a trademark if you don't effectively police it. So it's not always companies just being mean or sort of stomping on the little guy. There is a actual risk that if you continuously do that, you can lose rights. You think of Band-Aid, right? So Band-Aid is made by Johnson and Johnson. If we use that word to describe any bandage, right? It's a very weak trademark. Now, Johnson is the only one that can call their product Band-Aid, but most people don't know. Most people don't care, and it's something that frankly, they should have done a better. Their product became too popular, and they should have done a better job policing it.
Like Frigidaire as well, like for refrigerator and stuff like that. Same.
Yeah, it's a good example. Yeah. So it's good
interesting stuff.
Yeah.
We had a question from Wiseman Creek Studios. I don't know how much you are aware of the Article 13 in EU, and if you are, then what are your thoughts about the copyright article in European Union that they are trying to agree upon now?
Oh, good question. I need more back. I probably can't speak to an audience on it. I'm only a U.S. lawyer, so I don't unfortunately have enough information.
Okay, well, thank you.
No, that is a lot to put on. Yeah, it's in short that they're going to like putting the onus on the internet providers and that to make sure that nothing goes through that's pirated. So that's kind of the thing. So if it goes through, for instance, with YouTube, a lot of videos might be blocked that have music stuff like that, instead of going to the onus of getting it through.
So I could speak to what we have in our country. We have it's the Communications Decency Act, the CDA, Section 230. I read about this in my book, the new book. It protects content providers like YouTube and Facebook and Google from infringing content that's posted online. The argument is that a company like YouTube, which I think this is it's a valid argument in a lot of respects. They can't, frankly, police everything. I mean, they can't police what we're saying right now, right? So let's say I'm holding up all sorts of pictures of, The Simpsons, right? They it'd be unfair for Fox to sue YouTube based on me doing that.
Right.
And of course, there's some parameters, right? If it's reported to YouTube, then they have to take it down and all of that. The issue, because I talk about this in the book, I think what is a little bit controversial about all of this is you look at companies like Facebook and Google, as I said before, because they categorize a lot of information. They're not just like neutral content providers or transmitters. They are sort of filtering a lot. So the problem, and this is just a thematic problem I talk about throughout the book, our laws are not robust enough or nuanced enough to deal with issues like that, because there's never been a company like a Google or a Facebook. So when we give this protection to them and we say, oh, it is reasonable, they can't control what people are uploading, and if it's infringing, it's not fair to sue YouTube or Google.
Mm-hmm.
But then when we find out, and these companies are not necessarily extremely transparent either, but when we find out that at least at some level they are categorizing and monetizing the way that they're putting together content, and not just being this neutral filter, but an actual filter where they're deciding upon what we see. How does that jive with the law, right? That broad exception that says they're never going to be liable, is that always fair if they are making decisions on content? So it's a very complicated question. I think that there was one expert who said that protection, that Section 230 of the CDA, is the one line of our legislation that has created more economic wealth than any other in the history of maybe the world,
Mm-hmm.
which is interesting to think about. You give these companies the power, or sort of you insulate them from liability for the content and actions of users, and it allows them to create this incredibly powerful, robust database, and they're basically not responsible for what people post. So that's the U.S. law.
Right. It kind of a bit different, kind of a bit lighter onto it. The only, like, it is kind of a way, like, more just lax in general. They're supposedly revamping the laws, but I know one thing they made a change was a couple of years ago was, like, downloading movies and stuff like that, that the provider has to notify you that you've done it, but they're not allowed to send it to the copyright holder. They can only get an IP address. They're not allowed to have any of your personal information. Then they're allowed to make a claim, but I think they have 3 months to do so. And otherwise it falls. It's 3 or 6 months. I forget the exact time. And I know there's a cap onto it. I think the maximum they're allowed to go for is something like $3,000 Canadian in damages.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And, as we're talking about these issues, it could have sort of all comes back to the technology, because, there's a Black Mirror episode where people's memories can be extracted and they share them with others. So what happens if one day we have these memory implant chips, which is, I think, a fairly likely scenario. So let's say we, aside from all the privacy concerns with sharing and deleting and editing and extracting memories, a whole host of concerns in terms of using them for evidence, and what does it mean to, sort of, do we lose a part of ourselves? But on the copyright infringement issue, so let's say one person goes into a movie theater, watches the movie. They now have it in their memory chip. They give the memory chip to whoever.
Yeah.
Our law is going to have, require the chips to shut down when you walk in a theater. Like, there's so many issues with technology just from so many perspectives. And I think copyright is absolutely one of them.
Well, that's like, look at with self-driving cars right now. We're going through this whole thing where there's a whole new line of psychology coming out of how to deal with technology and how it divides. If there's close to an accident, which life does it preserve? All these things.
Absolutely.
This is just the beginning of what our lives are going to become more and more like as technology becomes part of us. I think, right there is kind of, we're watching the infancy of it take place.
Yeah, you hit on a big point. I talk about it in the book. Which life would you preserve? I think it's very critical. And then just in terms of the more just from a liability perspective, if a company produces artificial intelligence and the mechanism, the device makes a decision, should the company always be liable? I mean, the argument is, well, it's a product, right? We have product liability laws. It's our field of torts, and there's all sorts of rules about that. But here, you're producing a product whose purpose is to make decisions. Should companies be liable for producing it, even if they weren't negligent in the way they produced it? I think these are, complicated questions. And by the way, I mean, they are absolutely practical ones. So Amazon recently scrapped a tool. It was a recruiting tool that was seemingly discriminating against women. And, it wasn't a decision made by an Amazon individual to discriminate, but they found that the tool was based on whatever algorithm. And it would have been an interesting case to see if they hadn't actually pulled that, if there was a lawsuit, to see how that would have played out. Would Amazon have been liable? So those issues will continue to come up.
Well, I think we should give this poor man a break. He's been holding that the whole time.
Yes,
He's been
my
such
God,
a trooper.
so deep into the conversation. Thank you so much for all the amazing information on copyright, social media, and of course your books. I've been posting the links in the chat as well, guys. The books are available on Amazon. You can check them out and purchase them. And we're so looking forward to the new book, which is going to be ready in a year or so, you're saying?
Either end of 2019 or sometime in 2020. Yeah.
That's going to be awesome. Thank you so much for your time tonight.
So looking forward to it. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, both of you. Great talking to you.
It was our pleasure. And keep in touch.
Yeah, I hope so. Let's keep in touch. Perfect.
Sounds great. Thank you so much for your time. Bye now.
Bye.
Poor guy. I feel so bad for him. He's been such a trooper holding that.
That was fun. Thank you.
Oh, my God. Yeah. Oh, that was awesome. No, that was a really great chat. Hope you guys enjoyed it tonight. He was absolutely awesome with his time and that, and such an interesting guy, and just a great conversation in general. Really was. So
yeah, so much information, and I think we touched up on some really deep subjects like Auschwitz and Holocaust and social media effect on the society and generations, and at the same time very light and fun objects of the Simpsons, and just the fun of writing the books in general. Such an amazing guest. It was a pleasure talking to you, Steven. Thank you so much. You guys hope that you enjoyed this as well. Sorry. We got some very good kind words in the chat from the people as well, how much they were enjoying listening or watching and listening to our guest.
So glad you guys enjoyed it.
Yes, thank you so much for all the feedback. That's what helps us here, creating more of this content for you and inviting more amazing guests like Steven here for you. So we're glad that you enjoyed it.
That means a lot, guys, that you guys enjoy that. I'm really glad you do, and that was always our goal, was to reach out and kind of expand our horizons. And thank you for joining us along the way as we do that, and it means a lot to see you guys enjoying it as well. So
that's right. And this week we're gonna have amazing guests following up. Tomorrow we're gonna have Tuesday Tech Talk, 3 hours of all the questions and answers about YouTube and more. Wednesday we are gonna have Eddie Van Halen and Gear TV YouTuber interviews with musicians. He's a Van Halen fan. He plays guitar. He knows everything about music. Thursday, of course, our European edition of Shoutouts. And Friday, Jay Boston, a vlogger and electric skateboard creator from Australia. Such an amazing week. I can't wait to interview all these amazing people.
Definitely. No, it's going to be a lot of fun, guys. And thank you guys so much for the likes. Address the elephant in the room if you haven't already. Yes, we've been getting picked on by trolls the last week or so. We know what's going on. So I really appreciate all the likes, guys. Thank you so much for helping us out. Thank you for recommending us to friends. All those great things. You guys are absolutely not just awesome, but an inspiration. So I want to take the time to thank each and every one of you guys. So Xenia's going to pick a live stream, guys. You're more than welcome to join us. It's always good to pass the love along, meet some new people, support a new live stream. We try to pick a new one each time. Hope you guys can join us.
Yes, of course.
Well,
And
thank
guys, don't forget to come back and leave a comment about what you heard or any of the subjects that we talked about today with our guests. We do appreciate it when you leave your comments.
Yeah.
So please take your time and do that, and you can, if you can.
And you guys are amazing, like right from the beginning, the middle, or just joined the last couple of days or tonight. Like I seen 89 Mattel, Pusa, you guys rock. It's a newer channel we just met, and it means a lot that you enjoy what we do. So, and it's great to have you back. The same as Arizona Timeless Tourists we met through more the middle. Who's Your Back, OD, Budget Outdoors, we've known for a long time. And to have all you guys enjoying it, it just means a lot. Ricky Dove, it's always such a pleasure, my friend. You take care. So yeah, guys, tomorrow night, 7 p.m. is Tech Talk Tuesday. That's 3 hours of everybody discussing. And also some surprise coming.
Yes, I forgot. I said I talked about tomorrow, and then I forgot.
Yes, and I'm sorry. I had a brain. I'm sorry.
I forgot. It's my birthday tomorrow.
Yes, it's Xenia's birthday tomorrow. It just comes with the run of the. So yes, it's Xenia's birthday tomorrow, and we're gonna have some fun, guys. So come and celebrate. So. Come on over and party with us a bit. So it'll be fun. We'll put up the reminders for you guys. It'll be up in a little while. Thank you so much for coming, guys. The link is going to be in the description.
Yes, the link is in the description, guys. Let's go and show some love to one of the our watchers here that usually hangs around our chat as well.
Yes.
Go over and show some love. That's one way of helping each other here. And we hope to see you tomorrow.
Yes.
At 7 o'clock, as usually on Tuesdays.
Thank you. Happy 29th birthday there, Arizona Timeless Tourist Road. Who's Your Backs? Wishing you a happy birthday. You guys are awesome. Hope you can come and hang around. Oh, now I'm going to see. Now I get stage fright with their name every time now.
Daffodil is in Vegas.
Daffodils in Vegas. And I'll get it. Then 2 minutes later, I try to say it, I'll get scared again. Thank you guys so much for coming. So much love to each and every one of you. Thank you for making this channel what it is, guys. You really are awesome. See you tomorrow. Take care. Bye now.